what's big here is the fact that the Poppy also has a good matchup into Cassandre, which naturally would be one of the champions that you would go towards when it comes to blind pick in top, right? There's still the opportunity here for G2. It is Zeus though, so he's just gonna blind the TF here. We'll see what Carrier's pick is going to end up being, barring some Jarvan support shenanigans, which, of course,
the thing is, it limits his options a lot, right? Like, he's thinking, maybe I need a range support, but Renata's taken away. Like, you don't want to play, maybe Braum?
Camille is a little
Camille into Poppy!
Okay. Now, I remember Carrier playing the Camille once, and he didn't win the game, but I don't think it was on his back.
Interestingly enough, he also played it, like, I don't know if it was a year or a year and a half ago. Didn't go great. In that game, you are very correct. Also, not necessarily the guy. And as you're playing Camille into Poppy support.
I know that, yes!
I mean, it gives you lockdown. If you can jump in, you put down your Hexagolden, you have the follow-up with the Falling Sky, you have a gold card, you have Cataclysm, you have a lot of circles, okay?
I do love me a circle
If T1 circles manage to kill G2 before G2 can chase out of them, it's good for T1, but I'm not sold on the Camille.
Here's what I'll say. T1 have a lot of threats onto low mobility carries. You've got a Varus and an Orianna who hate playing into Jarvan traditionally, and I think Poppy as an idea is good. My question is, have they cooked too hard? By putting the Poppy into the support role, is that losing too much strength in the bot lane 2 versus 2? Perhaps into the Camille, this is a matchup I'm not super familiar with, so I might be completely wrong. But the Vi diving in, I feel like that Yasuo and Orianna has the potential to follow up, but with the amount of damage threats from T1, I'm not convinced. Like, there's a lot of volatility in these drafts. It could go either way. I'm honestly just excited because with how these teams are playing, fights are going to be super important.
The one big thing, though, is range. I do think that with this comp, G2 has put themselves in a position where they need to take full control by mid-game, because eventually Acel's range and the amount of zone control that he has, and the outside of Vi, the level of engage is relatively lackluster here from G2. So lackluster engage combined with the fact that you are going to have to be the one generally that wants to go in with the Vi, with the Orianna Ball, with the Yasuo, because I like Lethality Varus a lot, but I don't think it stands up to Acel when we get to the later stages of the game.
Oh, it definitely doesn't. And with Acel just being able to stand back behind the Twisted Fate gold cards, behind the Cataclysm going in, behind the Hexagolden Ultimatum, we'll have to see if the game goes long, whether G2 are able to extricate themselves from what will be a tricky teamfight situation. I wonder if we'll see Yike around mid quite a lot. If you can put Acel behind and get Orianna in a position where she can just bully him out of the lane, it becomes a lot easier for Caps to make sure that Faker doesn't outscale.
If we were to summarize this series, I feel like that the top side has been G2 favored. In particular, like, I think that their solo laners have been outperforming T1's laners in the laning phase. But the bot side of the map, it's all Guma carrier. Like, they have just been dominating their 2 versus 2. Throughout this series, they have been able to find these advantages. And for T1, I think this game will be one of the biggest examples of them being able to snowball through their bot lane. This is a hyper-aggressive 2 versus 2, and you have the ability to attack this bot lane early. So I'm excited to see what T1's plan is. Can they get this bot lane off the ground, and can they leverage Guma more, especially if Faker is not having the best series?
Well, I think Mickey has been one of the more inconsistent parts of G2. His game 2 in particular 100%. Wasn't really able, and I think his Leona was fine, but it felt like it was more
an accessory.
Accessory due to the space created by Yike and Broken Blade. We'll see. If you've seen the Camille support maybe a couple of months ago, so they nerfed the Doran's Blade start, which was insane on it. Can't do that anymore. They also nerfed Bloodsong. So there are a lot of parts of this that are not nearly as strong as it was. It is still double Halo Blades. So level 1 is going to be quite pivotal. We'll see to what extent T1 is able, because you need to start winning this lane early and never stop.
Double Halo Blades gives you a lot of pressure in that lane. Cool to see Carrier path up towards the top and actually get a ward in the middle bush for Zeus. It makes it a lot easier for Zeus to trade in this lane into a ranged into melee matchup. Means that Broken Blade can't just dash away.
Look at bot lane already. We talked about the volatility. Guma couldn't use the Marshall Poise, already interrupted by Mickey. But Carrier was able to get on top of Hans and trade back, utilizing the W. We've been seeing this more from Camille's in early levels. Obviously, you're not going to get a huge amount of value out of the hook shot, given that you do have the Poppy Steadfast presence.
Guma and
Level
Kerry
2 though, here
yeah,
it
they're
comes.
1 minion away. They get the level 2. They don't go any further forward immediately. Guma steps in, chunks out a little bit. Adaptive defenses for Carrier possibility. Hookshot wall dive, get the steadfast presence out.
They're feeling it. I love watching these bot lanes fight because they're super aggressive in the early levels. We see Ona doing a full clear bot side, actually pathing towards top. As a Yike trying to navigate his way around that ward, but will be spotted out.
One thing that is big to mention, though, is that last game that we saw this matchup in top, Zeus was playing into a Yasuo that got first blood. Right now, we look at level 3 to level 1. Zeus is generally, outside of being very susceptible to ganks, really good at these early spacing champions. And this is, I think it's really important for T1 they actually get the crash here, because their jungler is pathing towards top, whereas Yike is on the bottom half of the map, and they don't have a whole lot of coverage as Broken Blade. Jarvan's early dives are quite strong. He does have a shield though, but he's level 1.
Gonna get level 2 off one more minion. There we are. Zeus locks in the gold card. Wind wall comes out. Ono will wait. Mickey engaging in the bottom lane as Guma almost stunned against the wall, but not quite. Guma gets first blood, and Hansama stunned. What a 2-for-1 in favor of T1.
Meanwhile, on top side, Broken Blade is able to survive the gank. Zeus was forced to flash. We'll see if Owner continues. This is such a big wave.
Broken Blade survives. Gets the wave under the tower. No TP for Zeus as well, means he can't quickly pressure Broken Blade again in the lane.
But on the bot side of the map, it is really favorable there. Hansama ends up going down. The trade for T1, and I'm gonna feel too bad about as we see here. Owner, my man, you gotta, if you don't hit it, you gotta flash.
Ooh, wow, Broken Blade even almost able to get a kill back. Summoner spells spent aplenty, gentlemen. We're looking again at the junglers. Owner still has the flash, Yike level 4.
Broken Blade still has his flash as well.
Yeah.
That's
Which
actually
level
absurd
6 is
considering
big.
how that worked.
Keeping my eyes on Carrier. Thought he went for a roam in mid, but it looks like those mages are gonna continue to farm. Mickey looking for a play, wave stacking. Could this be a dive in bot? Nope, I stand corrected. I thought Yike was still hovering around. He's chosen to commit the reset, likely going to path back towards top. But these lack of summoner spells, I need to see these junglers do something. We look back at this play.
If Mickey gets just a centimeter further forward before charging, Guma's stunned, G2 get at least one, and
They
definitely
did that
don't
level
lose
2 versus level 3, by the way.
Yeah.
But Carrier wasn't there. That's your window. You just go. And that's what you have to do sometimes to Poppy.
Instead, though, they do take a big gamble, and these type of lanes, double Halo Blades, do thrive on finding early leads. Now, when we look at the farm, it wasn't that bad of a trade. As
Astral fly forward by Faker.
Faker!
Caps just needs the autos. Faker! Just taken out by Caps in the 1v1.
Caps finds the second solo kill of this series against Faker. We talked about how he is playing out of his mind this year, and he finds another one.
Death presence in by Mickey. Carrier flashes! But the precision protocol, Guma needs an order, but he just can't get in range on Summer. Blocking for Mickey, but the wave pushing in gonna be so difficult for Hans to survive under this tower.
Yike has to make a beeline towards bot lane. Ona has his eyes as well on it. This bot lane is going to be so volatile, but it's Yike that's going to get there first.
No vision for T1, Guma no flash, Carrier neither. Is it just cover?
Yike needs his Q. 1 second, here we go.
Ona's on his way, Carrier stepping forward. Will the dive materialize? Ward across the wall, Yike dashes. Faker coming across from the side as well, has the skies descend.
as his ult.
Mickey's on his way. This could be the ball game right here. Faker goes in. Who tanks first? Already we see Hansama falling. Yike with a flash. Faker tanks a tower shot, but T1 able to get out. Caps looking for the flank. Has the shockwave, but no flash. Ona tanking on the front line as Mickey and Yike continue to collapse. Can Caps find Faker? Not today! Faker escapes. Guma falling low. The ignite not enough to take him, but the command attack will send him to an early grave.
Oh my goodness, it's only 3-3 in kills, but the action is relentless. They're looking for... Oh, Yike won't actually commit to the play. Chooses not to overextend. Wow, I can't believe Caps didn't connect onto anyone with the shockwave, but we look back at the 1v1 in mids.
It's Faker that decides that this all-in is happening.
Look at this flash from Caps. He actually gets behind him, so look at this awkward loop-de-loop that he's trying to do with the Q. Caps!
Back through him as well.
Caps knows this matchup well. He is the ASOL guy in Europe, and he punishes Faker for it. We don't get a replay of the bot action. Nice initial dive from T1. Good overlap of the ultimate from Faker to make it impossible for Hansama to do anything. Caps' arrival means that G2 can get the chase down. But ultimately, I still feel like this bot lane heavily going in the favor of T1. And we look at top 2. a very different story compared to game one.
And he goes.
Breath in. Zeus locks the gold card. Broken Blade just trading there. Not too much more going to happen.
And this time around, we do actually see Zeus able to utilize that passive, right? Is able to build a sizable gold lead just in the isolate 1v1 because naturally, with all the attention being drawn towards the bot side of the map and the dives, the early aggression, both junglers looking to make an impact as the ult is used, but only for vision. Zeus just using it to get back to lane and catch his wave. We are seeing, as you point out, that first kill from Caps already sets him up great. The fact that he's able to pick up another in the bottom half of the map, particularly given how consistent his Orianna performance was in the last game, is good for G2. Outside of that, though, this bot lane is going the way that T1 wants it to go.
Yeah, exactly. And we talked about it coming into this draft, right? Expectations of the T1 wanted to try and make things happen in the bot lane, and they're doing a good job of it so far. 800 is the collective gold lead. But ultimately, when we kind of think about the comps, this Poppy is going to offer so much value later into the game. Caps is in such a commanding position. And while this Yasuo is struggling for now, admittedly, we know that this matchup is only going to get better for Broken Blade. Ghost is used.
Cease and desist in the mid lane. Good Sky's Ascend, though the shockwave. Faker dodges it, but Mickey's here. Faker no flash, and Mickey slams him into the wall. G2 collapse in mid to find another kill.
All right, Caps. His accuracy on the shockwaves not the highest this game, but it doesn't matter because G2 still converted into a kill. Carrier on a ward.
Rags coming across. Carrier on a ward. Flash forward. Chain of corruption. The lockup on Guma. And there's nothing he can do to escape. The chase continues. Carrier doesn't have a flash. Can he hookshot? Can he wall dive? Or will he just die?
And one of the things that was going well for T1, the bot lane, gets punished so insanely hard. Don't sweep the brush that they're in, which means that Mickey can go for the immediate stun, take out the big damage deal right from the get-go. And you gotta put some question marks on T1's decision to say, hey, you know, the Poppy's coming out, we're still gonna pick the Camille's. Look here again, the fact that they're in vision means that Guma doesn't get to do anything. He's the one that has a decent amount of gold. Not gonna be the case. The chain actually connecting onto Carry as well, roots in their last second, but honestly, I don't know if it would have made it out anyway without the flash available, no ultimate available either to try and dodge something.
And look at how things are swinging now. Gold bounty on Hans and Caps. Yike. Finding impact where he can. And this isn't going to get any easier for Kalista the later we go into the game. No. Faker, is he in danger? No, he's perfectly fine. Has the ability to get away to safety. But I did not think coming into today that I would be skeptical of Faker's individual performance. You were telling me coming into this series that Faker has had a great year individually. Yeah. He's been one of the best performing laners in the league outside of Chovy. But overall, he's been an outstanding player. And to see him play the way that he has been a surprise. The good news for him is that Gumayushi and Carrier are still definitely on form and poised to still have an impact, even if there was a small blunder there in the bot lane.
Another thing, this is a position that T1 wasn't, I think, mostly towards the early end of Spring Split, when they were still dealing with, obviously, the, you know, the Worlds finals taking a really, or rather Worlds as a whole taking a really long time, them making their way towards some fun tournaments as well. It was Zeus, but then he was often on Aatrox, and I think that Zeus is, especially when he's able to generate a lead, like he's been able to here, thanks to the TF, is very dependable when he is on point, which I think today it's been, I don't think he's been really one of the big problems. I think BB just had a really good sack game, but most of those carry performances were on Aatrox. Compare that to the TF, where your impact is just naturally in team fights, not going to be even remotely close.
Credit to Zeus though, game one on the Twisted Fate, even though he was behind, he was throwing out more gold cards than a football referee, right? It was gold, 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 gold. It was impossible for G2 to actually get forward in fights. So give him his fair share of due diligence here, as we expect to see him still having a great performance on the TF this game.
And what I'll say is that T1 have proven that their team fighting is still world-class. They are a tenacious team, and even if they find themselves at early game deficits, they find incredible ways to come back into games. Their Baron plays in particular are what made the finals so difficult for Gen G, and why it was such a chaotic, crazy 5-game series. So definitely not going to count them out. G2 find themselves with about a 1k gold lead for now. Ona sets his sights on the bot lane. Hans Summer forced to respect it, knowing that he is on the weak side of the map, as more gold gets funneled into the pockets of Guma and Carrier.
Yeah, the one problem I have is that T1 doesn't actually have that good of a team fight comp until he gets a like late game, because Aesol by himself. Yeah, when Aurelion Sol basically single-handedly makes your composition a team fight comp. Outside of that, though, particularly in the mid game, I think you're going to be super reliant on getting Zeus out of that lane, get him out on the map. Because one of the big ways that T1 was able to turn game number 1 was G2 going in aggressively and then getting punished on the collapse afterwards. That's something that T1 is going to have to find this time around as well. Because when you look at, again, just the power and the gold buttons on G2, Yike presses are, there's follow-up from Caps, there's follow-up from Hans, there is follow-up from Broken Blade. And it makes it really hard to play out these early skirmishes.
Also have Mickey's ultimate if they want to try and split a fight up, right? You knock the Aurelion Sol away,
the
then
same thing.
when we saw back in, right?
Oscar playing against Gen G, his ultis onto Keen were massive to allow Fnatic to win out on some of those team fights. Broken Blade now in some danger.
Broken Blade just going to get Star Surged a little bit. Singularity goes down. Faker at 111 stacks now. Usually around 200 is the mark you look at for the 20-minute mark. So well on his way towards that. You only keep scaling up quicker.
Carrier.
And goes on. Carrier locked against the wall. Yike here for the chase. Will they use the cease and desist? Ona goes back in. TP flash away with the Cataclysm. Keeper's birdied out by Mickey. Hans Summer now collapsing. Face call. Guma locked up. The shockwave. Yike going back in onto Guma Yushi. Hans Summer has Carrier on his base and he might get taken out by the falling star. Carrier trying to put the damage down, but it's too kills. Hans Summer. Oh, he thought he was gorgeous, and he was! He flashes into a bush where there's a sentinel, so Carrier sees him, but Hans Summer doesn't give a damn and puts him in his place.
G2 found a 3-for-1 fight. I was expecting them to get wiped there. The TP was so fast from T1, but they actually convert it into a G2 victory. Hans Summer does lose his life. He hands over a shutdown, but look at Caps. He's working towards a death cap second, almost level 12. Let's look back at this fight.
Big thing here is I think Faker not able to find the impact with this Aesol as the W from Poppy is down. A lot of damage goes into Yike, but because he flashes, stays alive for so long that Mickey has his W. And look here, this becomes so messy. Guma, which is one of the main sources of damage, gets taken out immediately. This ultimate finds no one, only the splash damage, meaning that Mickey can kill Faker. And Hans Summer can find the output with the flash on the E.
He's flashing incredible precision.
Was that?
The Q2
Never mind, yeah.
flashes away from it because Carrier actually flashed on top of him. A little bit of a spectator mishap there where we didn't see Carrier being on top of him.
So I think also because he flashed into fog, it also interrupted, or maybe he didn't actually even get the auto attack
get
off.
cancelled if you're in Fog of War. And then the Spectre obviously did see him in the end, but Hans Summer had bought enough time to pick up the kill. T1 now pushing in the top lane, about 1,000, 2,000 gold behind. Dragon being taken by G2. It will be 2 Drakes to 0 in their favor.
Now, expectations coming into this series were that T1 would be the heavy favorites. We've seen the number of predictions, and of course, this series is not over yet, and by no means is G2 in a convincing position where this game is secured for them. But already, I think G2 are defying expectations in how competitive they are playing against T1. In all 3 games, we've been seeing these incredibly close back and forths. And I'm excited to see where things pan out as Caps finds himself with a 2.4k gold lead over Faker.
The last time they won a best of 1 against T1 was at MSI 2020. That was 4 years ago. As the chain of corruption going wide from Hans Summer, the Destiny's going to come in and there's no way for Hans Summer to escape
He's
it.
so dead.
He's so dead. As Hans Summer oversteps a little bit. Mickey looking for Hex Flash across the wall. TP in. Hex Flash cancelled. Mickey trying to get away from the gold card, which is locked in by Zeus. Cataclysm into the Keeper's Verdict. Only hits onto Zeus. Guma still chasing. The collapse coming in, but Yike realizes perhaps discretion is the better part of Valor.
This is what we were talking about. Make sure as
being bot.
Not getting the cancel. They did have the ward, but not going to find that. This is a really big moment, right? This is what we're talking about. Use that TF. Although I do got to say, Hans, you can't. Even if the TF wasn't there, probably would have ended up going down.
He would have, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that was a necessity. There is going to be a gold influx here for T1. My main issue, again, is going to be how are these team fights going to play out when the Orianna is this fed? Because right now, Death Cap done at almost 17 minutes, whereas Faker is sitting at less gold than Yike.
Yep. I mean, game 1, Faker bounced back, to his credit. His ended up being godlike, and he had a huge impact in the game. But so far in games 2 and 3, it has not been the Faker show.
Oh.
He has flash.
And the thing is, he should never get close enough to this wave for BB to really be able to collapse.
Yeah, he's fine.
The singularity, the range you have on it, obviously you can, breathe a little bit of fire on it as well to help those minions die.
Herald's likely going to be
156.
dropped mid now. There's an opportunity here for T1. So they actually have their sights set on the bot lane.
Guma and Zeus gonna path down towards the bottom side, then go back to mid. Hansama, Caps, and Mickey answering. It's only Broken Blade in bot lane. Yike coming up, opening through mid right now. Only deeper ward. You'd like to see this in the lane just to spot T1's movements on the map.
What that did show us is how good the single target damage is. That's the one thing you need to be careful of if you are G2. Don't overextend as Guma.
Oh, Yike! All the way onto Guma, the flash away, steadfast presence. Mickey can't find the stun, and Guma will be able to get the blast gun in time. Yike! Misses the bolt breaker, and now he's on the wrong side of dodge. Flashes away, Cataclysm, Shockwave dodge with a Hexagon ultimatum, and Yike locked up and shut out by T1.
Overcommitment there from G2. They're getting a little overzealous. They get the summoner spells out from Gumayushi, but it was so difficult for the rest of G2 to follow. No Broken Blade ultimate to connect. Caps' Shockwave doesn't connect. And all of a sudden that goal gap is closing quickly. And this is the thing about T1. They're quick to punish your mistakes. And they are more than willing to fight you if you bring the fight to them.
Yike also investing his flash there, so the range of the Vi going to be a little bit easier to deal with. Big thing there is that there's no objective to be taken. As we take another look here, it just starts up with Guma extending the play with the flash. The double knockup from Owner, absolutely pivotal here.
If Mickey had been able to connect that stun, a really nice sidestep there from Guma to dodge the Q from Yike, that could have been a very different story. They may have been able to follow up, but G2 was just so far behind. Really nice use of the ultimate there from Carrier. And T1 is able to find a punish kill onto Yike. That'll be his first of the game. And you can see, you look at the gold at the bottom of your screen, both AD carries sitting at 4 deaths, both supports with an impressive KDA. Jungler's in a pretty good position, but that gold advantage being gained largely from Zeus' passive, some of the plates as well, has put him pretty far ahead of Broken Blade in the isolated 1v1.
As long as, as we do go in Mickey.
Looks for the knockup. Oh, it's done onto Carrier. Caps. Ooh, that's some damage as well.
That was what I was leading into. As long as Caps doesn't overextend, I feel like G2 can fight their way out of any fight, right? Caps just needs to not be in a side lane where he can get punished by the roams and the global map pressure that Asol and TF have. As long as G2 makes sure that Caps always has either protection or is playing around the known locations of the T1 members, for T1 it's going to be really hard to ever walk up and contest because there's so much damage as Mickey.
Guma has no flash. Guma has no flash and no Edge of Night. Destiny out. Smart play by Zeus to spot. The fact that Mickey was flanking Carrier, going in with a Hexagon ultimatum, knocked back with a hammer shot, the Cataclysm. Caps still stunned up, and Mickey's already killed off Zeus. Caps down, the shutdown goes to Guma. Mickey trying to put the hammer snap into the last breath, and T1 maybe breathed that last in this game. G2 find 2, and Guma and Carrier walk away wounded.
Broken Blade arrives to the fight, and they make the combo happen. Yike and Broken Blade lock down Faker and Guma, and with the Baron alive, G2 are going to secure it.
T1 seem to be on the same page. We got to kill Caps, we got to kill Caps, but you can't dive that deep. They are going to give up the Baron, might get at least a mid lane turret for it, but not the trade that you're looking for. And G2 take a commanding lead.
The confidence that we're seeing from G2, I would have expected them to not be ready for this collapse. Broken Blade is making his way down from top lane, but this is the dive threat from T1. The lockdown onto Caps, good ultimate comes out from Mickey. The follow-up CC onto Zeus means that they're able to one-shot him, but look at this combo here from Yike. Broken Blade is in range, the comms come through, Faker gets knocked up, Owner gets knocked up, and they convert it into 2 kills and a Baron. Impressive fight from G2 as T1 find themselves faltering once more.
Drake available for G2 as well will be Soul Point Ocean Drake for them if they can find it. A 2,500 gold lead now for G2, and they are close to taking this series 2-2-1, going to match point against the current world champions. And at a time when I think a lot of people looked at EU coming into this MSI as weaker than, not than it's ever been, but definitely in a weaker state than we expected them to be.
Do gotta say though, the Rebel Baron power play does for not getting too much. If you only end up getting a mid lane turret out of it, it is nice, but by itself, not enough. And I think this is where the threat of the TF, again, ideally you want to set up for at least a 1-4, maybe a 1-3-1, but don't really get to do that. So the Baron itself is going to give a decent amount of gold, but outside of the soul point, which is valuable, Well, Ocean Soul obviously not going to be your preferred Drake of choice.
Importantly for G2, Camps didn't burn his flash in that last fight. Was CC'd for a long time. I think there was a small opportunity in there, but held on to it. Carrier has no flash, Faker has no flash. Owner has his though. So the ability to lock down the G2 mid laner is still a possibility.
I will also say that Mickey's had an incredible game.
Yeah.
Like, his Poppy in every single play has been outstanding. And considering his game 1 and 2 that were not the best, he has definitely turned things around. He's been involved in 11 of G2's 12 kills. And I think that this Poppy pick was so valuable and continues to be so. We'll see if T1...
He's poppying off, eh, buddy?
He is... he's poppying off, Medic. Yes, he is. I'll give you that one.
I'm looking left to right, audience. I don't get to. I don't get this reference.
Atlas, mate. It's popping off, but poppying off. He's popping off, poppying off.
Yeah, okay. Costume with Atlas should prep me for that one. That one's on me. Thank you for the explanation.
That's all right.
G2 now setting up a siege. This tower's going to be difficult to knock down, though. The wind wall should prove helpful.
Carrier, no hookshot wall dive. Stun card locked onto Yike. Singularity going down. Broken Blade dashing forward. The threat of the Steel Tempest lands that Q3. No last breath to follow up. Another tower goes down. Carrier dashing in, dashing out. Dancing all about. The chase continues as T1 is trying to be a nuisance to G2. They should all be able to back away together with this Baron empowered recall. Never mind. T1 continues to step forward.
They're cautious, though. Yeah, Owner doing the correct thing. Mickey, the last man standing. But the rest of the team will go back to base. The Baron wearing off soon, if it hasn't already. And the Dragon will be the next point of contention. So now both teams will likely enter a neutral state, looking to get what farm they can, secure as many items as possible ahead of the upcoming fight. You can see the components of the Zhonya's Hourglass being finished up for Caps, getting close to level 16. He's likely to get it ahead of the next Dragon fight, meaning he's going to have his level 3 ultimate unlocked. Han Summer very close to completing his Muramana as well. And G2 looking poised and strong, ready for the next team fight.
Broken Blade puts the wind wall down. Hexagol Maiden coming out as well as Carrier dives onto the backline. Broken Blade down to half HP. Owner dashing forward and Mickey binds Faker. The chain of corruption follow up. The shockwave. Faker falls. Yike able to survive as well. Locked up underneath the tower. He'll die. 2 for 1 so far in the exchanges. Zeus able to walk down towards the bottom side. Kite away. G2 continue to push in for the tier 2 in the mid lane.
Broken Blade. He's looking for more. They'll just take the tower. Wow. And Broken Blade was just kind of testing the waters, and T1 said, fine, we'll fight you. They tried to catch G2 completely unawares once again, but G2 were able to respond effectively, and it's Mickey. I have to see a replay of what happened with the Shockwave, though, because I thought that that was going to do massive damage. We'll see back. Maybe it was just the spectator. Broken Blade, he goes in. Obviously, this is a bit of an overstep. He's relying on the wind wall. Carrier gets the initiation, but then look at Mickey here. Doesn't connect the ultimate on anyone, locks Faker up, and then the dive comes through.
Big thing here is Faker, outside of his ult, again, doesn't actually find anyone. The re-engage from Yike there does end up getting him taken down, but with the rest of G2, and again, crucially, Caps still being unthreatened because everything was used trying to kill this Yasuo. It's, by the way, didn't flash, didn't die.
Carrier into the wall, Han Summer there for the follow-up, just looking to chunk Carrier out.
Whoa!
Well, that's a hell of a chunk from G2. The chain of corruption landing as well, as Zeus going to try and lock in the gold card to stop Han Summer from the chase, but Yike is here, and Zeus is not long for the rift. G2 find another 2 with Drake up in a minute's time.
26 minutes in, and G2 are slaughtering T1 right now. They're running amok in their jungle, and Mickey just continues to find more picks.
One of the few bright spots that T1 still had left. Zeus tried to save his teammate. Not going to do a whole lot, as the amount of damage that G2 have available, the amount of chase, absolutely impeccable. And one of the big things we talked about, again, it's the fact that Mickey, being Poppy, outside of a gold card, which in of itself isn't going to be enough threat, he legitimately can just face check every single time. And T1 can't. No one on T1 can walk forward, because if they end up meeting this Poppy, they can't escape, and then they just get taken down by the amount of damage that's there for the rest of the team.
I was going to say, if you're playing solo queue, don't look at Mickey's build. Mikhail's Dead Man's Blood Song does a lot of damage, but
the McKills actually for the gold tag.
I love the tag.
I respect it.
I just don't want to see my supports trying to pull it out in the middle of a game as Han Summer begins to collapse on T1. TP into the mid lane. Drake up. Soul. The battle lines drawn. T1 would be walking into fog, the standard, their only bit of vision. One ward now in the river. Faker needs to find a Sky's Descent, but he doesn't have the upgraded ultimate as Ona looks for the flank vision on him. Ona just wants to get in here, now out of vision. Last breath going in, it's secured by Yike. No damage between the two teams really as G2 just get the Drake and get out, but Yike is overstepping. Cease and desist on the backline into the last breath, into the shockwave. Faker is yeeted the hell out of the fight, and even the base core might not be enough to save Carrier. Ona down, Guma down, T1 down, and G2 on the brink of taking a lead versus T1.
T1 again, they try to force. Again, they don't succeed. Trying to take down Yike. He's able to turn it with an immediate ultimate. Faker's going to TP back in a desperate attempt. Yike won't find him, but I don't think it's going to make a difference.
G2 is looking to end the game right here. Sub 30 minutes. G2 have torn T1 apart.
He's got the wave, though. This is really smart. Carrier catches it. The cannon minion dies, and there's only one minion left alive. G2 unable to advance. Intelligent stuff from the T1 support.
Can't clear, though. This is not your normal Camille. No Revenus Hydra available, so next wave, this is going to delay, but it just means G2 still get a massive gold lead. Going to pick up the Baron and look for the end on the next push.
G2 continue to defy expectations. With the Baron locked in, this looks like G2's game to lose. Underestimated at every turn. They have taken the fight to T1, and this should be the last-ditch effort from T1.
No flash for Ona, but the Cataclysm, Mickey locks him up. Ona shut out. And G2 did everything they needed to make sure there was no steal happening as the flash shockwave on Faker takes him down to half. Mickey with a slam into the wall, and Guma's hopes of winning this game are being slammed in his face. G2 almost clean acing T1. Guma dies, there it is, a clean ace for G2.
5 alive for G2, 5 dead on the side of T1, and with this, G2 will go to match point.
The last Nexus tower, merely a blip on the radar for G2. It is G2 T1.
And G2 take a lead in the series with only one more game win to advance to the upper bracket. And gentlemen, I said coming into this game, I wasn't sweating. Coming into after the draft, I was sweating a little. Right now, there's a fan pointed at us, but let me tell you, it doesn't make a whole lot of difference.
This Poppy pick was incredible. 3-1-16 for Mickey. A massive turnaround from games 1 and 2. And G2, they have been defying expectations as they bring us to match point.
The inventiveness that defines G2, the Rek'Sai, the Zac, now the Poppy. We'll see if T1 have enough bands to work it through these G2 players. We're going to hand it over to the analyst desk to break down that game and lead us into what could be match point.
Thank you so much. It is, in fact, match point because it's 2-1, and it is a best of 5. It's G2 that do similarly to Game 2 get their advantages, but I feel like it was a different way in which they approached it because they still dropped the ball just a little bit right after they got the initial skirmishes. So what do you think about the overall approach and how hard fought this victory was comparatively to Game 2?
I think it definitely was a more thought out process when we got past these initial skirmishes. I think G2 really looked at Caps and said, hang on a second, this guy's already got a Rabadon's death cap very early into the game. He's even skipped boots to prioritize getting that big second item spike. Let's wait for him, play the team fights around him. And it was more of a case of we're not going to try and play out through sidelines as heavily. We're instead going to very quickly group around Caps and look for picks off of his ultimate.
And I have to give credit also to Mickey because in the early portions of this series, he was playing a little bit slow and poorly, but he has been on point, just playing towards mid lane. Once he sees the advantage from Faker, and the advantage came from this deck, though.
Yeah, I mean, this is our Mercedes-Benz featured matchup, Caps versus Faker. It's been Caps.
It's been Caps all along. I mean, look, even in game number 1 where Faker was able to bring it back, he had get some of those kills. It was still Caps controlling the early stages, getting that solo kill. And off that solo kill, they immediately make this play happen. Move into bot side, get the play with Mickey. And Mickey having this flash so consistently onto key members in team fights was huge.
That's the thing, because once you see the advantage through mid and the flash burn through mid, then suddenly Mickey's like, all right, let's double down through mid with Yike. All right, we'll take that lead and we'll go down bot lane. It's just been a system that G2 has been pushing for.
They have. Here we brought up kind of the head-to-head between T1 and G2 in terms of of the rivalry they have been building up currently in series, it is tied at 2-2. Of course, we need to remember that the times that G2 took those matches off T1, those were 5 years ago. And for 5 years, we've been waiting to even get to a match point in this situation. But I would be very dumb to think that the series is over here. You're playing against a world champion. You're playing against a team who's been through a lot more than this.
I agree with that. I think there will be a lot more fight back. I think Owner will look to protect mid a little bit more. But it starts with Faker just being able to hone in his own laning phase. It's actually been a little fraudulent so far. And so even though you said that it's not over yet, I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry, guys. I'm already wrong.
Yeah, Raz had a 3-1 for T1, so he didn't win anyway.
All right, bring that in.
Here,
bring that in. That's true. That's my new pocket square if I can push that in there.
Just so the audience knows, 3-1 G2 prediction, 3-2 G2 prediction. You know,
3-1 T1
if you want to know who the superior analysts are. I mean, of course, T1 could very well win and bite us both in the butt. But anyway, we need to take stock of what we've seen in the entire series, right? And it's, for me, quite clear to pick out the high points for G2, being Caps has had a good performance, minus a couple of lapses in that game 1. I think Yike has been sovereign. I think Broken Blade has done more than enough as well, and the bot lane is recovering.
Hugh, I agree 100%, and I think the thing that stands out to me is that a lot of the plays G2 are making are not what the LCK is comfortable at. When you look at the way LCK plays, it's we will go towards an objective, we will look for mid-wave, and then we will look for the fight at the objective. The way G2 are playing is we will take the fight before you hit an objective, before we get there. It's 45 seconds, we're looking to find a pick ahead of schedule. And it's this quick pick and run. It's not overextending for the rest of the fights, and it's making it very difficult for T1 to find their patented comeback moments because there's just no big team fight for them to find it with.
And what's really frustrating, if you're looking at the side of like the Kalista or even the fight we just shown, there are so many damage threats, and it's not as if G2 is playing perfectly. Like that last team fight you had mentioned while we were watching the game, like Caps just flash when he gets J4 ulted. He holds it a little bit too long, he dies, but then Mickey X, Yike, and Broken Blade comes in clutch, not only just ejecting Camille from the fight, but then also being able to let the Yasuo get his ult off, a 2-man ulti that wins them that fight. So it's been tough for T1, and they're just trying to recalibrate.
Yeah, and I have trust that they can do that. Silver Scrapes can very much be on the horizon.
That's true.
I would say I'd love to see it, but you know I would be lying just a little bit. But I do love a good series of League of Legends. So Raz, talk to me through with T1 electing to stay on the blue side, how they make that happen.
The sad thing was that they did what I expected to do, went towards the Kalista. I actually thought that the drafting was good from their side. The only thing that I didn't like was actually the Camille. I think the Camille, when you see Poppy and you recognize that it's going to go towards the support, I didn't want to see it. I even talked about it at the beginning of the day. Just like change that aspect so the support pick is a little bit different. Maybe go to Rose Rumble, and I'm happier.
I agree. I think try and have something that's a little bit more ease of execution and has that still viability when you get to a mid game, because once Keria fell behind, he wasn't really getting back into the game with this Camille, and you miss that aspect for with Keria, which has been massive for T1 as well.
Also, this is the second time we've seen the Yasuo as a counter, and it's been doing well versus the Twisted Fate. I don't want to see the Twisted Fate if we're leaving Yasuo open.
Okay, I think that's a good call out to see if T1 can recover, if they can bring us to a Silver Scrapes, or if it will be against all odds. G2 Esports closing out the match versus T1. I can't wait to find out what happens. We'll be right back.
welcome back to Chengdu, China, where we are here for Game 4 between G2 and T1. And in a dramatic turn of events, it is G2 who currently sit at match point. After Game 1, T1 have looked out of sorts, I think, and G2 have very well punished them. The question is, will it continue?
It's a little warm in here, gents. It's not because I'm standing between you two.
T1 has been in a position like this many times before, right? They've been able to find their way out of series, and I think that something we discussed in the previous game was, okay, yes, you took away the Zac and you took away the Rek'Sai, but then you committed all these champions into a Poppy that you didn't expect. And the thing that I think is surprising T1 is G2's flexibility in the draft. The fact that they're willing to pick Yasuo in the top lane, the fact that they're willing to prioritize Orianna. Some of the shifts I want to see for T1, get Faker back on Azir or Orianna, make that the priority pick. Kalista taken away does increase the value of the Varus. The question is, will G2 actually choose to ban that away, or will they continue to get rid of things like the Ashe and the Rumble?
Also want to reiterate, when it comes to series, T1's, especially with the Worlds win, did really kind of shake off a lot of what happened for them in the, I don't know, what was it, like 6 finals beforehand. But Game 5s specifically still have been something that they have struggled with in terms of individual performances. As Guma, I think one of the few players on T1 where I feel like he's had a great series.
Yep.
It just,
oh yeah,
he's the guy known for the egg in the ramen. The egg is there. The ramen not so being cooked so far, and we got to talk about a little bit, as we'll talk about the picks as well. The fact that Faker isn't performing, we saw what it did to T1 last year when Poby came in, and that was because he was the voice, right, that the team needed. But it felt like the rest of the team was getting more dependable. But Faker, I can't remember the last time, even if he's not at the top of his game, that he genuinely just struggles as much in lane as we've seen. And credit to G2 as again, this time the Rek'Sai not going to be banned, gonna get picked up by Yike again.
I mean, the Azir is the obvious choice here for T1. Get Faker back on something he's comfortable on. His game 1, yes, he faltered a little bit in the laning phase, but he bounced back and had a huge impact.
And you just have to look at the series against Gen G when he managed to solo get that quadra kill that kept T1 in the game in the finals. There is the Azir locked in. Will T1 look to their jungle?
Yeah, support or jungle, that's the question. Vi is still available, of course, if they want a little bit more lockdown. Or perhaps they want a little bit more frontline. Things like Xin Zhao still available. But if they want to just grab something like Nautilus too, I think are all very viable options. I think they're a little bit skeptical with support because they know the flexibility that Mickey is showing today. What will the direction be? Xin Zhao is going to be the lock-in for Oner. So there's their initiation, their front line, and also a way to tank up any of the damage that G2 can throw out.
That said though, the Xin, we'll see to what extent Oner can have an impact into the Rek'Sai specifically.
Oh, G2 have brought out
Oh, they've done it! They went back! Cogmore!
So at the start of winter, Cog Braum was a thing that G2 just did on repeat.
Last year they did it too. Like, this was just a thing that they brought out. It was, I forget exactly what they used it as an answer for, but Cogmore Braum. Cogmore Braum was such an effective combo for them. And like, it's good into long-range comps because Cogmore, once you activate the W, you get to the hyperscaling point. You have so much utility with the Braum as well.
You can even team it up with Emilio if you want that extra range. We haven't seen a lane swap yet. Cog Emilio in a lane swap can be very powerful.
I mean, to get through the early levels, for sure. But in terms of taking towers, I don't know.
Not as powerful, sure. But Emilio can even go Demolish. You just go Revitalize Demolish on your secondary tree, and that helps you with the pressure on the lane.
Also wondering if T1 are also going to know that this and go for the takeaway of the Braum. No, it's going to be the Lulu ban instead.
I mean, much more traditional Cog Lulu. We see that quite a bit. Cogmore Braum is more of a G2 special. Renata's still a possibility with how many people want to step into you. Renata ultimate here, very
Braum
good.
is a wall, but Renata still acts as effective disengage, right? And it just offers more scaling options for the Cogmore too.
Mickey hasn't lost on it this year either.
That would be something.
Carrier's barred.
Yeah, Carrier has relied on this. There are 3 immobile characters on the enemy team. It is, yeah. He wanted Lux, but he didn't play Lux, so that was a bit of a problem.
I was going to say earlier, we haven't seen K'Sante so far this day.
K'Sante barred. All right, so Carrier is not going to play as much for lane and is going to look to impact the map. Maybe he can get Faker off to a better start, work with Oner to find some impact on the map, but a more traditional front to back coming out from T1. And they round things out with a Poppy once more.
It's what we talked about in the previous game. The pop is also great into the Cassante. Last time,
Oscar against Gen G.
exactly. They don't want to go for it. And the early laning phase is actually really, really punishing. Does mean that, again, I feel like we really expected there to be more lane swaps in this series.
Yeah, I did expect more lane swaps.
Also because G2 talked about them all the time.
Yeah.
They're like, hey guys, we like lane
They
swaps.
literally only did lane swaps in the playoffs. Come into MSI, everyone's doing lane swaps, and then G2's like, no, we're over that.
That's subverting expectations. It's what G2 do so well.
I mean,
maybe extrapolating that a little
it's
too
one of the
far.
things where, like, the truth is, coming into this series, we had no idea what G2 was going to look like. They were one of the first teams to get to China. They immediately went into scrimming. Like, they've done nothing but prep to prove people that they can be the drivers of their own destiny. And today, taking 2 games off T1 has already changed the opinions of many. The question is, can they close things out, or can T1 prove to the world, or remind the world, I should say, why they are the reigning world champions?
And T1 is on the precipice of reliving some very, very bad flashbacks to what was the darkest days for the LCK, and it was specifically T1 that G2 took down. T1, not only are they going to have to win this game, they're also going to have to conquer their game number 5 struggles that this team has dealt with over the last, 3 years since they've gotten together.
Once more onto the Rift, my friends, for what has been an electrifying series so far. I know a lot of the neutrals at home want 5. I kind of want 5 too. I think more of this would be fun. And I won't hide the fact that if G2 win this, what a day that would be for Europe. What a day it would be for G2. It's been 5 years since G2 last took a series off T1.
I want to echo again what I mentioned. Even in the game where he bounced back in game number 1, Faker has genuinely looked like the worst he has all year. Like his individual laning phase in the LCK wasn't why T1 was good, wasn't why T1 did so good at Worlds last year, and it wasn't why they've made so many consecutive finals necessarily. It was his voice, it was his shot calling, but he was always dependable in lane. He was always there to at least absorb pressure, absorb ganks. We saw a lot of that last year in Worlds as well. The way that he played against LNG, for example, I think was pivotal. And we're also seeing how pivotal, again, how essential Faker performing is to T1 as a team, as Broken Blade will get spotted.
Just trying to get his head in there, get the ward down to spot owner's early pathing. Yike was spotted on a ward as well. The traditional Faker ward up near those Razor Beaks. So both the junglers' early positioning should be known by these two teams.
I really can't believe that Hansama just brought out the Cog more. I was kind of disappointed at last year's Worlds that we didn't get more of it. So for him to bring it out of his back pocket when they barely played, I don't think they did even play it this year once.
Played it once. Yeah.
Oh, one game, okay. But Caps off to a good start in the lane, already putting pressure down. And you can tell Caps in game 1, I mean, he was already having a solid game. You can see that he was kind of still feeling out the stage, getting some of the nerves out. 2, 3, and 4, his confidence has only grown. And it definitely feels like that he's getting the better of Faker in this series.
You have to remember, for G2, these are their first stage games as well. So having a few nerves, having a little bit of apprehension early doors isn't too surprising. Kerry and Guma, once again, getting level 2 first. Kerry has been so on point with these cosmic bindings. He's just so good at it.
Also see that the top side of the map, both junglers pathing towards bot, both spotted as well. Owner a little bit behind, particularly things like Raptors, Rek'Sai obviously choose through very, very quickly. Does mean that T1, again, ideally is going to look towards the Crash. A really big turning point for me in the previous game was when Guma and Kerry were trying to punish, trying to catch a rotating Mickey on the ward. And that was the point where I feel like one of T1's final outs in that game were taken away. This time around, Yike, I'm gonna look towards Faker, who already is pretty low. Owner.
He's not burrowed, so he doesn't have the tremor sense. He will know that Owner is in this sort of area. He's not going to step around to steal away the red. Now he checks the Razor Beaks, but it might just be a gank on Faker. Tunnel flash. Faker's on the right side of the map to react to this, though. Faker flashes early. Has to. Yeah, otherwise he's dead. Yike might still look for it. Owner's path down towards the Krugs. Yike
Mission
now
successful here. Carrying out on the roam, as you'd expect. Mickey quick to follow. Only level 2 from him, though. Does he have the handshake to maybe set up for a play? Neither going to connect. But this does give Yike control over the bot crab. Maybe you can get a double crab here. Oner is, of course, level 4, though, with the push in bot. No mana on Guma, but the low HP from Hans means that he's in some serious danger.
Yeah, Mickey's only level 2 as well. Yike's going to try and smite this away. Oner doesn't have a smite. Mickey with a handshake bat. Smite lands from Yike. There's the heal as well. Mickey has to flash. Yike flashes as well. Good reactions by Oner and Carrier.
Nice decision-making overall, knowing that on the roam back, it was very similar to what we saw in game 1 when Caps was going for the roam top. It was that in the rotation back that T1 was able to find the punish. They're skeptical about, spotted from the Tremor. The level 4 still for Oner. He can keep the pressure up here. He knows that he has the push in bot. Gumayushi still low on mana, but HP from Hans is still low enough that they can force this fight.
I can look for the smite here. Both of them have it. Oner doesn't get it. Yikes secures it. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, Mickey and Hansam are forced away. Gumayushi looking for that first plate.
They pinged the ward as well. Oner definitely needs to get that. There's still pressure that comes out from this, but picking the Gromp up would have been really big. Oner's camps on the top side of the map already up is going to take the scuttle, but T1 really was looking for more there. Also saw an early proxy, I think, come out from Broken Blade, as of course the early levels are the roughest for the Xanta in this matchup. Don't really have any meaningful threat whatsoever, but also not tanky enough to take the beating from the Poppies. Carrier, as bards often do, trying to be annoying.
He's doing exactly that.
Wave nicely as well. But Hansama struggling in this lane matchup. We'll be honest, it's been a while since we've seen it, but Gumayushi still playing with the utmost confidence. Carrier leveraging his range and the pressure that he's generating, along with the jungle support to build up a lead already. And you mentioned it earlier, Chronicler, Gumayushi really has been the pillar for T1 in this series. I feel like that even in their losses, he's still found ways to have impact in the game. It was much harder last game because of the Poppy, of course, but he's been doing what he can for the team. And I keep my eyes on him as we approach the mid to late game, as still being a stalwart and a threat that G2 have to find a way to shut down.
Faker ticks over to level 6. Carrier was roaming towards mid, but just wants to get a bit of vision down. Oner taking his camps is slightly ahead of Yike because of the extra time Yike sort of poked his head into the jungle. It's about 1 camp in advantage for Oner. Zeus looking for the Intofos. Isn't going to land that Q3 as Yike clears out the vision and gets over to level 5.
One of the big things here is that both junglers have consistently been found as dodging the Wind Becomes Lightning. Their Oner still looking for Chase, but not going to continue. Obviously really hard to lock Rek'Sai down. Specifically, the fact that neither Oner nor Yike at basically any point in this game have been not tracked by their respective opponents has meant that thus far, not a whole lot of volatility intrusions. Okay.
I think it's a wave clear plus maybe a catch there.
There's another wave.
Yeah. I think he was trying to catch
one though.
I think
got it.
I think he was trying to catch Faker off for sure. Doesn't have the TP, so he's likely going to stay to catch this wave. He's been taking a few poor trades against Faker.
Well, you think Faker's flash was burnt early doors, and since then Faker's actually been in the lead, both health and CS wise. Yike still looking for mid. Faker still a quarter of the cooldown left on his flash, but he can just dash across the wall. Grub's taken by Oner. Caps no shockwave, remember? We saw it burnt a moment ago. Yike hits a Void Seeker, but Caps is down to 150 HP.
Super awkward for Caps right now because he needs to get a base off. Oner has full control, is going to move into the red buff, which he knows he can take because he has push in top and in mid. Maybe Yike can go for a steal, has the smite.
TP in, Broken Blade will be able to join this play in just a moment. Yike knocked up. Mickey's on his way as well. Zeus the first one here. Faker moving from the mid lane. Red buff resets, and the smite not there in time to take it. G2 able to distract T1 for long enough.
Don't think he got into smiting threshold with no level up yet for Oner. Still 6 treats away. Bot side though.
Look at how much Mickey is losing off the back of this. Carrier forcing the ghosts out, but Mickey roaming up to help his jungle. That means the plates are going to be lost. 2 waves stacked up underneath the tower. A gold lead continues to be built for Gumayushi, and while the solo lanes of G2 obviously have been doing very well in this series, it has come at the cost of Hansama losing a lot in the laning phase. Carrier provides the exit way for Gumayushi to get away to safety, as Hansama can now return to lane to collect the scraps of what is left of the wave.
Look at it, 26 CS down now. There's basically 4 waves for Gumayushi over Hansama. Hansama will be able to pick up 1, but overall, T1 in a very strong position here. 600 gold lead for Guma.
And a lot of this is going to come down to, for me, what can Broken Blade do and what can Mickey do? Because in isolation, Hans, Caps are going to have a really hard time trying to actually play team fights against Bard, against Azir who can scoop them up, and against like a Sanse. So the Renata in particular is so insanely strong against compositions that are going to try and aggressively get onto your backline. And T1 doesn't have a whole lot of range. You're really looking at, you know, some poke from Guma. We already talked about that. It's more about the setup and the follow-up damage that the Lethality Varus provides. Not in of itself enough to really keep teams on the back foot, unless T1 is able to continuously build this bot lead. And it's, again, the stabilization of mid lane, which has made this game look completely different, because Faker isn't playing from a deficit. Guma and Keria actually get to exert their pressure in the 2v2, which is where, I think, consistently in this series, Poppy game notwithstanding, they've been able to excel.
I mean, Faker's looking much more comfortable now.
All these tunnels. I love Rek'Sai.
Keria, level 6. Mickey very far behind in terms of XP. All the other objectives are going T1 to 8. G2's options feel very limited in terms of where they can actually set up plays. You've got to remember the added safety, even though Faker lost his flash. Oh, here we go.
Tempered Fate coming out. Mickey caught first, Cosmic Binding just short there. Handshake back as Hans Sama tries to open up. Ona here as well. Gumayushi can step past the tower in just a moment. Yikes on his way. Mickey not yet. Level 6 doesn't have the hostile takeover to turn the fight into anything more for G2.
The heal was used by Keria defensively. Wind Becomes Lightning didn't connect onto Mickey. He's very close to level 6 now. Yike has an eye on mid lane. I think Faker's playing very smartly though, hovering around the top side of the lane.
He just dashes away. Yike can't tunnel onto him. It's the safety of the Azir in the mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, he also has the added sustain from the fleet footwork, right? He's just doing a great job in general. Level 9 secured for him. First item finished for Gumayushi. And overall, T1 with a 1k gold lead. Just kind of thanks to the pressure that they've been putting down across the lanes and around the map.
Want to see though, because one of the big things that has been the most impressive to me about G2 is the fact that they've actually been able to hold or to fight their way back from these early deficits outside of game number 1, where obviously it was kind of the reverse. How they've been able to match T1 when it comes to the early skirmishes, something that I think T1 generally within the LCK is the best. Gen G, when it comes to mid game, when it comes to macro, they're obviously, and when it comes to sidelines, the team that excels, but the Baron calls that T1 is so often known for, not really anywhere to be seen in this series. We got one very early on, but that was about it. So we'll have to see to which extent T1 can actually hold on to this lead. Again, a lot of it is on Guma. We talked about how tough it can be for Hans Sama to play some of the later game fights. Same for Guma, honestly, because he is playing against a whole lot of aggressive backline threat.
Keria able to magical journey his way to safety. G2 got the bot side Scuttle Crab, but meanwhile Ona is taking the 5th, 6th grub for T1. And they also got the first rate. Neutral control very much in T1's favor in this game so far.
Oh, completely. And you can see advantages gained in mid, advantages gained in bot. Looking
Keria with the stun.
I don't think they're trying to catch the wave. Yeah, I think this is a little too ambitious. And this gives a window now for Faker to push in mid. Caps is going to lose a decent amount of farm. He does, of course, have the TP. But Faker going to be happy with this. Level 10 ticked over for him.
I mean, they're looking for the Caps TP in with Yike here as well. He goes to a tunnel, so Faker doesn't immediately see it. Emperor's Divide coming out as Caps goes for the chase, but Faker able to escape the clutches of G2.
Nice little play there from G2. Doesn't really result in a huge amount, though, as Faker's able to glide away to safety. Next Dragon spawning in about 2 minutes' time as no first blood yet. And what's been a very bloody series,
it has
surprisingly calm.
Caps wanted to get to the lane anyway. Doesn't really matter whether he goes to his turret or the tunnel. We do see Keria.
Tempered Fate, Caps side steps, Cosmic Binding, Caps side steps that too. Magical journey in by Keria. It feels like one of those, I missed everything, you have a go, Ona. And then decides against
I'm just like, I'm good. Let me
Sama, though, down to half HP. Faker does have the flank position here. No Emperor's Divide, remember, as Ona goes in. Crescent Guard, bash away from the Chain of Corruption. Immediately, Yike and Caps try to dive on a Faker, but Hans Sama's already fallen. Hostile takeover, lands on 2 first blood. Goes over to T1, they find a second. The Cosmic Binding from Keria is just sublime, and now Caps knocked up, tries to flash, but there's no way he's getting away from Ona today. Or is he? as he continues to walk away, has to dodge. The wind becomes lightning. Owner going to tank the tower. Audacious charge is enough as Yike falls as well. It's 4-1 T1.
And just like that, T1 blow the game open. A single fight is all it takes. 3,000 now the gold lead. Hans gets trapped in the river. And without any hesitation, T1 collapse.
Mickey also not able to find a whole lot of impact with that ultimate. So instead it gets broken up into these little fights where, unfortunately, for G2, they're not able to take down any of the targets in time. The Bard providing a lot of added delay as well. And I understand that G2 want to look for this because there is no ultimate on Faker. Owner goes in super aggressively, and even with the Chains of Corruption not hitting, 2 members are trying to take down Faker, whereas Hans gets burst down immediately, and then Mickey, again, his ultimate not actually finding anything, ends up going down. And then that tunnel, I don't know if they get out otherwise, but definitely didn't hit the mark.
I mean, at this point, Yike also trying to do what he can against Gumayusi, but he's level 9. He's going to tick over to level 10 off the back of this as well. And now this Varus is incredibly fed. They don't have a Zac this time. They don't quite have that same dive buddy presence, which means the Gumayusi not going to be as scared as he was in game 2.
That's also a Comet Varus.
Yeah.
It's not lethal tempo like on hit, you know, in the long fight. He doesn't even have Veil of Blades.
Opportunity knocking for Gumayusi.
Oh yeah.
The lethality already with that serrated Dirk as well. And now G2 very much in a hole. T1, this is kind of more of what we expected from them in this series. Getting out to an early lead, 4,000 gold their advantage. And the question for G2 is how on earth do you fight back from here? Because T1 are so good at suffocating you out of the game.
And that's exactly it. Look at how they'll use their mid-pressure now to unlock Carrier to roam around the map. They have push in top lane. It's been a pretty neutral matchup, but Carrier wants to try and change that. There's not much of a wave to play around, so it's going to remain a neutral matchup. The biggest problem that G2 have to deal with is how do they shut down Gumayusi? And even if they do, Faker's continuing to ramp up on this Azir. They have 2 huge threats. And I don't know if this Cosmo is going to be enough. We'll have to wait and see, as this Xin Zhao is going to be a problem.
Another big thing in the previous game was that because Mickey was on the Fat Poppy, he could just walk in and provide very easy, very safe vision. And there wasn't really an opportunity for T1 to punish him any time. On the Renata, obviously not going to be the case. The Poppy's still in the game, but Broken Blade not only able to nearly have as much of an impact when it comes to setting up for these objectives, as he needs to match one of T1's solo laners in a side lane. We're looking at bounties on the board already here, and this slower pace, seemingly T1, at least for now, benefiting the most. And even though Faker did take a death there, I think we are seeing him, as you actually we talked about this a little bit coming into the day, Veddy, Faker's champion pool, and it's funny because it's Faker, and he's played, I forgot everything. I think it's like,
It's
like 79 or 80.
After Aurelion Sol, he was at 82 champions.
There you go. Yeah.
Wow.
So obviously his champion pool is as wide as league goes, but hold up.
Corruption hits. Hostile takeover is going to be popped. Gumayushi's going to be caught in the back of it. Broken Blade with a flank position. Yike with a double knocker, but Caps not quite here yet for G2. The Tempered Fate buys a second. Carrier is going to be the first of all as G2 continue the battle. Faker in with the Emperor's Divide, but Faker low. Zeus on that front line though can tank for days. Broken Blade can't quite land the stun into the wall, but the shockwave Pathmaker out. Zeus survives. Living Artillery just short. From G2, they find one, only Carrier falls.
Okay, so G2 actually win a fight there. The TP from Faker doesn't really result in much, and it opens up this mid tower. Some bounty gold will go back to G2 as they show that, hey, T1, you have to be careful. Don't overstep your boundaries. Because they get all the summoners out from Gumayusi. A nice flank TP from Broken Blade could have been the demise as G2 only find a single kill.
Smack dab in the middle there. Faker doesn't join until realistically it's already too late. Nice knock up there again from Yike. And Guma gets taken out of this fight so early because first he goes berserk, then has to use the summoners just to stay alive. And then here, by the time Faker shows up, it's only really to try and get himself out. The fact that Zeus doesn't die is actually quite big. If Hansama ends up getting that kill as well, and maybe they can start getting him in a better position, could have been big as Guma.
Gumayusi, no summoners on him. Chain of Corruption goes wide and Guma's just down. Caps TPing behind as well. Drake up in a minute and a half, still a while. But G2 now find another kill. And once again, the curse of being in the lead seems to be playing up in this game.
An uncharacteristic mistake from Gumayusi, the staple of T1, finds himself overextended in mid lane, and is collapsed on by G2. Crucially, they give that shutdown over to Hans.
Faker going in. Titanic Hydra, not enough. The shockwave onto Faker. Yike dashing away, but Ona's here and will happily accept that kill. Carrier with another Cosmic Binding. Hansama trying to close in from the side, but he knows that Ona's on his way. Camp's falling low, but will manage to fight another day.
And just like that, T1 reaffirm their control. They remind G2 that this jungle does not belong to them. They find a pick onto Yike and go back to their winning ways.
Owner on this Xin Zhao, exactly where he needs to be. Has looked, I think, by far the best on this. One of the big things that I was wondering about coming into the tournament is what is Owner going to play, given that the champion he has looked the best on over like the last year and a half, the Rel, has been taken out of the jungle. Xin Zhao clearly has been one of his main champions that he is able to have this mid-game impact on. That said, though, 2 TPs were invested there from G2, both to great effect. The gold lead, though, still 4K in favor, and the Hextech Soul specifically. I think you can afford to give soul point to Zeus alone here.
Doesn't have the ghost, has the Pathmaker. Steadfast Presence locked him up for a second. Broken Blade chasing in, Void Rush, Caps collapsing, Owner's on his way, but can Zeus survive for long enough? The all-out might not be enough as Caps lands a shockwave on 2, and now Owner with a bounty on his head in the middle of 3 members of G2. Caps flashes out of vision, and Owner has to flash away, collapsing though T1 come in. Guma Yushi there first, Yike dashes away from the chain of corruption. Owner falling low, but the piercing arrow from Guma Yushi never misses its mark. T1 find another.
Guma doesn't miss those arrows, and that's pivotal because otherwise this could have been a disaster. Owner not dying could have, or rather Owner dying could have been a turning point. Zaze goes down. Now the question becomes, does T1 still get their way with this dragon? Setting up soul point here would be huge, and there was a lot invested to the top side by G2.
Faker secures a tower in the bot lane and gets another 700 gold for himself. G2 just want to try and find a pick. T1 is setting up the map nicely with the push in mid and the push in bot, which means that Zeus losing his life here isn't the end of the world. But T1 say, we can actually fight this. The arrival of Owner thinks that, hey, I can turn this around. He commits as much as he can, but he almost loses his life. He's forced to flash away. The arrival of T1's bot lane is what turns the fight around. Look at this arrow from Guma Yushi. Nicely done. We find him landing these arrows crucially in so many fights. He finds another, brings himself to 3-1-2.
Without the bounty going over, still see this huge level. Last time, Yike on the Rex side was a raid boss, unable to be taken down by anyone on T1. That's not the case here, and it looks like with Caps over the top side and not having the teleport available just yet, they are just going to give up the soul point. I understand for G2, but T1 going to be very happy about that.
G2 in the hole right now. 2 items on Owner, 2 as well on Guma Yushi. He's building up towards that Manamune. Faker a little bit behind, but still ahead in terms of gold. He's just got piecemeal. Seeker's Arm Guard and the Void Staff on its way. Crypt Bloom complete for Caps. We'll be trying to get towards that Rabadons, but right now, T1 in the ascendancy, looking to take us to 5 games again.
Yeah, it's a throwaway, Harold. Gets a charge.
Yeah.
Good enough.
They get what they wanted. Damage is done. Look at the difference in mid lane as this time round. 1.1k for Faker, almost level 14. So much more confidence in his play. As right now, the entirety of T1. I mean, the way they've built these leads has just been through superior laning and smart map moves. They've had full control over the early objectives, and it felt like G2 have just had no options. This Kog'Maw pick came out as an answer to Varus, and it just hasn't worked out. Perhaps if they can scale for long enough, there's a world in which G2 can turn these fights around, but right now, it is fully T1's game to lose, to bring us to Silver Scrapes, to bring us to a game 5.
Making scene here. TP behind. Hansama has 2 items. Yike goes in. They look for Owner first. Crescent Guard pop by him. Broken Blade might go for Guma. Can knock him into the wall. Carrier though is going to spot him. Steadfast Presence going down as the Sun Disc is used. Flash from Mickey with a hostile takeover, but it only lands onto the Azir. Yike trying to do what he can in the middle of the fight. His Owner's already down to half HP, but Yike and Mickey and G2 have to retreat because gold from Carrier. The shockwave only lands on 1. It's Owner, not the target that G2 wanted. And Baker has had enough. He slides G2 into the waiting moors of his team as T1 look to take us to match points.
Oh, this is the classic T1. You think you're fine? The geometry of that fight with the Bard, the TPs. But in the end, at the very least, they're going to get the inhib. But knowing them, I'm feeling it, they're going to try and bring us to back-to-back Silver Scrapes.
There is something inevitable about Faker. There is something indomitable about T1. Mickey comes up alive, 8 seconds on Hansama. No minion wave here for T1, but they have the might to try and help out. The wave about 5 seconds away. Hansama will respawn in time. T1 take the gate out and have a little patience.
They were so close to ending the game right there, but the Baron will have to do. All 5 members remain alive, and the fight was so disconnected. G2's Hansama was nowhere to be found. He couldn't land the damage. The shockwave was barely impactful. Caps! He completely whiffs the shockwave, doesn't even send the ball over. Another to add to the list of Caps fails as T1 walks away with the Baron.
It's been a lot of ups and downs as this all starts off with Owner getting engaged on. It's so hard to actually take down a Xin Zhao and do reliable damage. Keria zones Broken Blade away, then Owner ends up going back in here, which keeps Caps away, and Hansama, as you pointed out, Letty, nowhere near the fight.
Faker has no threat onto him. He's just able to keep dishing damage out. There, the shockwave only connects onto Owner, and at this point, as Medic said, Faker had had enough. Flashes in, connects the ult onto 2, creates a wall that G2 cannot escape from.
And this Kog'Maw hasn't felt great. That flash didn't either. T1
It's quintessential.
It's about to bring us to another Silver Scrapes, and man, what a treat it's been.
And what a turnaround, an absolute stomp from start to finish from T1, reminding the world why they are so feared. They're continuing the siege. Good damage from Guma. Forces G2 back as they chip away at this tower.
There have been 9 5-game series in MSI history. We might get 2 in a row. In fact, I think it's pretty much certain now as T1 push in for the top lane inhibitor. G2 have half a Nexus tower to try and defend. Broken Blade, Steadfast Presence will stop Owner's engage. Gumayushi down to half HP. Zeus pulled back with a handshake, but he's tanky enough. G2 looking for any last vestige of hope. Sending up prayers. Looking for a miracle. Broken Blade finds one perhaps as Owner's locked up. He flashes the wall. All they're going to do is buy a little time here. But time is swiftly running out. Kronos himself is playing for T1, and Faker goes in again. Stopwatches the tempered fate from Carrier. In fact, the Serema slide was not enough. The shockwave from G2 will do nothing as T1 assert their dominance on the series and take us to Silver Scrapes.
5 games, you wouldn't have it any other way. An international rivalry that hasn't delivered in a while, but is delivering today. Gumayushi said, no, I'm carrying this one. And off the back of his Varus, they bring us to game 5.
T1, I think in this series, the first classic T1 game that any T1 fan will have seen countless times in the LCK. Dominance from start to finish, something they haven't really been able to find in this series up until this point.
We'll see if they can continue that dominance in game 5. We're going to hand it over to the analyst desk to break down that game.
Let's go again. We get another game 5 after we saw one yesterday as well. But will this one have a different ending? Will the underdog be able to finish the job today? Or will T1 shut the door? Because when you know T1 and when you know what they're good at and how they like to play and how they played in this series up until this point, you know that this feels so good because everything is working out.
I think a huge amount of it is like, as you say, T1 finding their stride. It's, hey, we're going to have lanes that we can try and play through, set up for Owner, keep Yike under control. And from that point, you're not seeing Faker fall behind. Faker suddenly coming in alive with these plays that we know him for on the Azir, and Gumayushi on this Varus in a great matchup, able to dominate the entire game.
This is the Guma carrier lane that we knew and we expected, and we got it in game 4. That was really well done. I think they recognized the lane was going to be strong, and they really bullet it and didn't give Hansama some breathing room.
Yeah, G2, to give them a due though, did not want to go down without a fight.
No.
I think this was a bit of a mistake though. BB probably should have just focused on towards Owner to get him in. Hansama not part of this fight, so you really needed a lot of core decisions to go in your favor here is G2, and even then right at the end, the shockwave just barely missing. It felt like it was just out of G2's reach, and T1 at this stage had already built up such a strong lead that Faker knows as long as he can make that sweep happen, they can sweep G2 with us.
Yeah, and that ulti from Keria to keep them interested, to set up for that Azir ulti, this is the T1 that people know and love.
Yeah, in those team fights also, you say it, G2 was very, very far behind. You felt like they really wanted to play forward. They tried to make it happen. They almost get a pick on Owner. Also kind of target selection from T1 in fights, how they run interference so that G2 can't pull off the correct damage that they need to put down, knowing that they're already behind. It was beautiful to see.
Yeah, and I think a huge amount of it came down to the draft. I think the fact that we ended up having the control coming through for Gumayusi in that bot lane with targeting a huge amount of the AD carry pool to put onto a Kog'Maw for Hans Sama that he didn't look particularly comfortable on. It meant that you had the control you needed from the bot side of the map. You then forced the Poppy into this weird position, the top side. G2 have a composition that doesn't really get to engage, so you get to play out the map as you want because you don't really have to worry about G2 doing anything apart from these weird TP plays that they had to throw at them because they had nothing else they could really do.
Yeah, this would have been a great game to actually get the swap off. That was something that you were expecting. That was something I was like, yeah, I can see it. I mean, there are lanes in which Cog can breathe. Like, there are a few lanes, but Varus isn't one of them. And it was tough, especially in times in which the Poppy was roaming, or at least the Renata was roaming. It made it so, okay, suddenly Bard can actually get in between turrets and force him off back to turret, or back to his fountain, and he really was just falling behind again and again.
Yeah, this was already, I think, the play that broke the camel's back in 13 minutes.
Exactly, and it's G2 taking skirmishes that they didn't need to. You have a Kog'Maw that would like to scale, an Orianna that would like to scale, and the only real damage that you have is going to come from your jungler and potentially a little bit from Caps. But even you can see in this fight, G2 already knew that it was a losing battle. They completely abandoned Hans Sama and say, look, we can't save you in this one. Mickey can do his damnedest to try and at least get out. So they turn onto Faker. But as that, G2 have to overextend and T1 just sweep up, knowing they are stronger in the skirmish.
And we got to be fair, we were following the mid lane matchup overall. You said a bit fraudulent from Faker in one of the previous games. This was a little bit fraudulent for Caps, maybe?
That's a little bit. A little bit. I did feel as though it was snowballing off the points that you were making.
Yeah.
Once their bot lane was behind, they needed to send resources to try and get something back, and nothing was working. But yes, to the point that you're making, Faker's coming back. And now he has some momentum going into Game 5.
He has a Game 5. T1 has a little bit of Game 5 trauma, of course, but this is an MSI where they want to show their best side. It was also an MSI where G2 beat T1 at MSI, and they needed 5 games. They did it again at Worlds, as it has been 1,650 days since then. The reason why I say this is because this is a Game 5 in the context of all of that, right? In terms of a struggle for Europe, for G2, since that point, in terms of being very close, but you have to finish the job. We saw it from PSG yesterday. So I want to hear from both sides. How does G2 do it? How does T1 do it?
Yeah, as you say, I mean, look, it's been 5 years since they beat T1, but this has been a win that G2 have been building for 2 years. They've been trying desperately to get this into a position where they can try and carry, and I think coming back into blue side is going to be massive for them. T1 can't target as heavily onto the AD carry pool. You get to go for that first pick Kalista, which has worked out for them thus far, and if that is then going to be the plan, I think you can play for that creativity that we saw from G2 over the course of Game 1, 2, and 3.
Are you flip-flopping?
I'm not flip-flopping. That'd be too many flips. But I think my answer would just be to follow Mickey X, because throughout the series, what Mickey X has been doing really well has been working towards Caps and making fights just basically outnumbered. And as long as he gets to be followed by Keria, then thumbs up. Also, just don't cut out. This game also was in jeopardy just because of that mid lane fight that happened in 16 minutes, and then Varus getting caught. There's a lot of openings that G2 had when it should not have happened.
No, and especially in that early game, straight off the bat, right? You saw it there, that Owner and T1's game plan, it was, okay, we also can't give Yike any advantage in these games. I think they're garnering a lot of respect for that jungler throughout this series and rightly identifying that you cannot get him going because he will make things happen.
Yeah, and that's why I think the beauty of that last draft from T1 is that they had all these winning lanes and pushing lanes that they could work through, because it just kept Yike out of the equation. And if you're able to do that again, I think that's where you're going to be able to try and focus. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a Xin Zhao coming through, high priority and some sort of pushing bot lane that they can try and play through. And maybe this is the game we get lane swaps, but I'd much rather we just stick to basics here for G2.
I mean, is this where it now gets in their head and they think, okay, that bot lane might, Gumayusi's consistency overall, Keриa's playmaking potential. Do you feel like they're going to lane swap this time?
I think they're just not going to go for the Kog'Maw. If they do go for it again, then I will lane swap.
Okay.
But I think they'll try and stick to lanes because it's been working so well for Broken Blade in particular. So just pick a stronger bot lane and then just try and match because T1 has been matching and it's been working well for G2.
Oh, it has. It's match point. It's T1 that clawed their way back to Silver Scrapes. It's G2 who is attempting to roll back the years. 5 years, in fact. They needed a Game 5 at that MSI in 2019, but T1 is attempting to rewrite and overwrite that memory. We're going to Silver Scrapes. We'll get Game 5 right after this.
Welcome back to Chengdu, China, where we are here for Game 5. 2 days in a row, we are blessed beyond belief with good League of Legends and with incredible series. I'm Medic, this is Chronicler, over there's Veri, and we are honored to bring you through the final game of this series.
We've had quite the banger series, gentlemen.
It's good.
I'm excited to see how things pan out. I haven't had confirmation, but I'm pretty sure G2's on the blue side, which means that things are going to be interesting because T1 found a pretty effective solution in game 1 in terms of prioritizing the Varus, giving away the Orianna and saying we can pick the Azir. I think that was massive when pairing that up alongside the Xin Zhao to give them early game control and just lane dominance. You have to imagine that Varus is going to be a higher priority for G2 this time round, and I question, how will G2 answer? Will they give Orianna to Faker and answer with Azir of their own, or will instead they prioritize the Ori?
Looking at the bans thus far, in the last game,
Azir
yeah,
bans.
there's Azir, and I wouldn't be shocked if they end up actually prioritizing the Orianna.
They probably will. They'll give over the Varus.
Oh!
But now it's Varus versus Kalista. I feel like G2 should go for the Varus, but they'll probably go for the Kalista.
I gotta say, might be a novel idea, but what if you're struggling in your 2v2 bot? What if you lane swap?
I mean, maybe they could do it.
Because the thing for me is we keep talking about it, and this is what the series meta has gone down to, right? The mid lane matchup has been so pivotal.
It certainly
I feel
has.
like it's been very swingy as well.
Ooh.
And when we think about, I was talking to you about this earlier, when you look at what Faker has played this year, they took both of them!
Oh my
They did
God.
both!
Okay, so Kalista top of possibility, Kalista support, obviously with lethality, something we have seen from Keria before.
It's
But
gotta be.
it was he that debuted the Kalista support, no?
It's gotta be. I don't think Koma's gonna be like, okay, Zeus, play Kalista top. I don't think we've gone that far yet.
Except play Bane top, I'm just putting it out
I
there.
know,
What does G2
I know,
even do
but
now? You know, no joke, I'd love something like, oh no, they're lane swapping.
Jinx
It's the
Lulu.
lane swap.
Jinx
It's the
Lulu. Cracking out game 5. It's
Okay,
for the
we're
marbles.
swapping.
It's the swap. They're finally doing the swap. They've practiced for so long. In game 5, they're bringing the lane swap out. T1 have to recognize that this is happening.
But here's the great subversion of expectations, Betty. You think it's happening, T1 go top lane, you're just in your normal lane again.
Oh.
But there's so
But
many,
what if they
so many
see it coming?
variations.
No, but I think that even, like, you let G2 swap because you know that your siege is so much faster. You can get so many plates, you can funnel a much greater lead, even if they get out of the early laning phase. Ari for Faker! Oh my goodness! They wanted to make sure he gets something comfortable so that the pool can't be pinched even more, and it's going to lock in one of his all-time favorite champions.
This is such an incredible amount of faith. Because I think Faker today mechanically just hasn't looked that good, and Ari is one of those champions that falls completely flat. T1 stands or falls by Faker, and the Ari has been a pretty popular pick into the Taliyah. At first sight, you might be like, but Ari has dashes, Taliyah counters dashes, but because of the amount of mobility you have with the triple ultimate, actually able to play around
I was
it.
about to ask, will they ban Poppy again? Because it's Kalista Ari.
I mean, they should have. G2 can now pick the Poppy.
Typically, G2 would put the Lulu here.
Yeah.
You'd have the Demolition rune is what they did domestically, and then they would move to a side lane and then, you know, do the whole split pushing thing.
I mean, that's why they banned the Jarvan as well. Low
Split
mobility
pushing, that's what
carries.
it is. Lane swap thing,
Lane
that's the
swapping.
word.
I mean, it's kind of split pushing, just, you know, a few steps removed.
So they're just getting rid of all the dive
Yeah.
from Ona. Very likely looking at a Xin Zhao now. Nocturne as well.
That's exciting. Sejuani still does give you good threat on the back line and gives you a tank to stand in front of the Ari. Lee Sin.
It's got to be. Like, I think that this game...
But if they do that, it's Poppy, bro.
Well, I know, but it's Poppy anyway. That's the problem. Maybe you want to look and just lock in, say, the Cassante for topside. Otherwise, T1 must have an amazing plan.
Ona's Lee Sin.
This is the... Again, it's the freeze Poppy angle of all time.
The only thing about the Poppy is, as a support, it doesn't give you that attack speed buff that something like a Lulu would do, so you
could
do
put a
lose
jungle.
out. You could put a jungle.
You put a jungle, and then I'm wondering what T1's response is going to be, because Zeus, it might end up being just one of his carries. T1 with a full carry composition would surprise me.
And there's the Poppy.
Oh!
I love this from both teams. I mean, like,
Velvet
G2 just saying, okay, the thing we practiced and comfort, let's just go for it. T1 doing a very similar
When
thing.
Yike debuted in the LEC, this was one of the early champions that he brought out. Cassante, no surprise from Zeus. Remember that I don't think Cassante's lost in the last 2 days.
big thing
I don't
here.
think so either.
Big thing here is that this time Zeus obviously, even knowing he's going to go into a lane swap, doesn't also go for the self counter pick with the Poppy going towards the support role. That said though, T1 better blow up this game in the first 10 to 15 minutes, and even with the lane swap, the onus is going to be on them to find huge early leads. Because otherwise, if you look at what G2 have, once you get to mid to late game, no one on T1 is ever going to touch Hansama. And I don't think he's had the best series so far. But if you're a Jinx with Talia and Poppy standing in front of you and a full short range composition on the other side, the game's got to be yours.
I think that T1 just have like zero utility, right? And that what they do have is like very single target, right? Like their engage is so weak. Compare that to Broken Blade, Mickey, that both have great disengage and engage tools.
But they kill you.
I mean, they do. There's a lot of damage.
Well, that's the point.
Death is the best form of CC, Betty.
It's going to be exciting. A lane swap is pretty much guaranteed for G2. We'll see how T1 respond. We're going to game 5. Owner's Lee Sin is something I'm always excited to see. Yike on his Belveth, comfort across the board. Let's jump into an incredible decider in this series.
Take a moment, take a breath. Probably the last one you're going to get for about 30 minutes. These two teams have butted heads, have battled on the Rift for 4 games, and now it all comes down to this. You paid for your whole seat, you're only going to need the edge of it.
5 years was the last time these two teams went to 5 games. MSI semi-finals 2019, the one that G2 did go to win. The one that us EU fans have been holding on to and have been praying to see that series again, and here we are seeing it materialized. A rivalry, an international rivalry that has not sparked for a while, but is elating so many fans today. Let's see how things pan out. The lane swap expectation coming through Hansama, hovering around the bot side of the map.
I don't think they're swapping.
They will. They might do the split map strat. They might do the split map into potential bot dives.
Mickey also went for Halo Blades. Just as another confirmation,
That's
they're going to be looking to go as aggressive as possible.
It looks like it's going to be a delayed invade into split map.
What you can do early on a lane swap is overload one side of the map to try and get the summoners out, and that's what G2 are doing here. Flash forward from Mickey, puts the buckler down. Gumayushi still has the flash. Yike unable to get close enough. Caps coming in from the side as well. G2 just overloading. Carrier's going to start putting some damage down. Guma has to flash. Ward down, Charm though. Caps flashes the wall. Zeus with the Pathmaker first.
It's a 5v5, a blue buff. T1 is committed to denying the split map from G2. So they've matched with 5 people. Zeus being here as well means that it is a very awkward situation. Level 2 trying to be secured by Owner on the Wolves.
And Yike's going to try and stop him from doing it, but he's stepping further forward here. Stun from Mickey. Carrier tries to flash away. The Ignite is ticking, but they just don't have the damage to take him out. Yike now trying to escape, but the Pathmaker locks him up against the wall. He has to flash. Owner gets 2. Where's he going to go? Back towards his blue. TP from Broken Blade. Both the flashes of the T1 bot lane are down.
One big thing though with these double Halo Blades lanes is you need to look for level 1 dominance. Carrier's already forced back. So that is going to be much harder for him, and Guma also no flashes available on the immobile characters. I think is going to be pretty detrimental.
Oh, Mickey just took a tower shot there. Not ideal with Carrier making his way back out into the lane. Of course, he does have the Ignite, but the level advantage that G2 is going to find themselves with. I wonder if they'll push this in and actually look for a swap.
It's a possibility. Hansama get that last minion. Owner obviously ahead in terms of the jungle as well. Yike having to flash back now on the Krugs.
Oh, but they've done this before. You expect them to go for the reset, because why wouldn't you? But Belveth is hovering as well. Yike needs, there it is, level 3 secured for Yike. How suspicious will T1 be? They're skeptical.
Sentinel out, Hex Flash into the wall. Guma down, Mickey takes it.
First blood for Mickey. No flash on Gumayushi, ends up working out. They don't need the lane swap. The invade has worked out for G2. And now it's a 700 gold lead in the hands of the European squad.
And particularly with the draft that T1 went for, losing early control is devastating. Guma going down there, worst case scenario as well. Yeah, Carrier able to pick up a little bit of the wave, but that's not who you want. And even more pressure now towards the top side of the map here for T1. The one upside owner has been able to farm, whereas Yike, as you pointed out, a little bit delayed there. Broken Blade.
Just trading in here, Yike went Scuttle Crab, now still hasn't farmed up that much. Only had a couple of camps. Zeus is going to be forced away. Owner can try and invade here. He's not seen by Yike.
Smite used early from Yike. Owner has his available.
Sonic Wave, that's the steal. Owner should be able to get it. Smites it away, waited until it was about 500. And now that's a 2-3 camp lead, in fact, for Owner.
Really good start for Owner. One of the advantages gained for T1. We'll look back at this play. Hex Flash used from Mickey. Knocks Guma into the wall.
There's just nothing Guma can do.
I mean, the heal comes through. I mean, the bad news is that the first blood goes to Mickey, of course. They would have loved to have gotten that gold onto Hans, but they'll take it. The biggest advantage they've gained is, look, the experience. You'll see Hansama about halfway to level 4. Admittedly, with this wave, Guma's not that far off.
Guma was alone under the tower for a while in the early game, so has been able to get that little bit of extra XP. Broken Blade dashing in here. Pathmaker back. Owner looking for the Sonic Wave. Broken Blade does have his flash. Zeus splashed away from the Sonic Wave there. Broken Blade able to survive, but now in a much more precarious situation in the top lane.
Wave in a bit of an awkward spot, but it should get fixed. Caps and Faker just trading back and forth. Faker with a small CS advantage. Broken Blade is going to be a kill!
Zeus dashes away, has popped the Ghost. Charm in the mid lane though, as Owner's on the board.
The 2v2 of this Ari Lee is going to have to be the thing that digs T1 out of this early deficit. An Owner picking up an early kill, absolutely huge. Broken Blade, even with his flash being forces Zeus to Ghost. Neither top laner having their teleport available, particularly in a lane where one of them is resourceless and has a lot more innate sustain. Actually, a really big lead here for Broken Blade, as he's going to be able to push in this next wave as well. And Zeus, just to make sure that he doesn't die, has to back off.
All right, so I was hoping we could get a replay of this. Of course, Caps, no flash available. Applies the slow. Nice flash in from Owner to just increase the likelihood of guaranteeing the charm. That was enough to get them the kill. Faker commits the TP top lane. He's going to go catch that wave. They'll send Zeus off to mid.
It's actually a swap coming out from G2 now, Very.
That it is.
Summer working his way up.
They want to get those
side.
grubs, of course. I mean, it makes sense. Also, get them away from that volatile bot lane 2v2. Carrier recognizes what's happening on the map, making his way towards mid.
Big thing here now is that G2, the one thing that I think they still need to be respectful for is the amount of early game skirmishing power this T1 comp has still is absolutely insane. Single kill can start the reset chain for Carrier and Faker. G2 not going to be contested here whatsoever as the lane swap comes through.
Importantly for T1 as well, Broken Blade just burnt his flash in the top lane. Obviously, Zac very difficult to kill, but you do have double Halo Blades AD carry in that bot lane. If Broken Blade overextends, there's a possibility you can take him out. Caps has the Weaver's Wall, Zeus is here, Owner's standing out of vision. Baker's moving up. Mickey looking for it, Owner's still waiting, Zeus hits 6, but it's rooted. Can't go any further. Broken Blade looking for Gumayushi. Flash heal still available for the T180 carry. Carrier here to bolster his defenses. Let's bounce from Broken Blade. Just chunks out Gumayushi. Doesn't get a summoner. Zeus now a target. Pathmaker's forward. Gets the stun into a hammer shock against the wall. And Hansama is on the board.
It's the Poppy again. Locks him down. Mickey denies him the opportunity to isolate a target and drag him through the wall to the waiting arms of Owner and Faker. And so many minions are going to be lost here.
Caps is sacrificing a lot to set up his bot lane for success, but 1,000 is the goal lead for Hansama. We saw Guma and Carrier locking in this bot lane to win out on the 2v2. But what is happening? They're not getting it. They're not getting the strength of this Varus Kalista. They are being denied it as Guma a full level behind Hansama on this Jinx.
And where are Gumayushi and Carrier on the map? Top lane. So where are Hansama and Mickey going? Bot lane. Immediately pathing away from it. There's no grubs for another 2.5 minutes. There's a Drake on this bottom side, and Hansama and Mickey will get pushed through that bot lane. Super Mega Death Rocket coming out here as well.
Just to interrupt the backs.
Just stop the backs. Carrier doesn't get to recall.
Oh my god, absolutely brilliant. It's going to delay them so much. Cassante making a beeline back towards top lane. The TP is available for Broken Blade in a minute and a half. It's going to be unleashed. Hans is going to push this wave in as quickly as he can. The question for me is, do G2 want to try and go for an early Drake? They could just choose to sack it. They could say, we don't care, the grubs are our priority, as we want to make sure that we have more sieging power and more play towards these plays. Look, they're hovering. They're faking that they've gone back to base. Guma was skeptical earlier, still lost his life. Let's see if he falls for it again.
Got to be more skeptical this time around, although I do think with no vision whatsoever. Oh no, he's walking back up.
Yike can just go in, Guma's there. Looking for the dome lock, and immediately double flash from Guma Carrier. Mickey dashes away with a heroic charge. Owner's in the river, but that's exactly what G2 wanted. Obviously a kill would have been good, but there's no summoners, no flashes for Guma and Carrier.
T1 do start up the dragon here. Does look like that is going to go over. No sums is absolutely huge with the amount of dive that's available for G2. Trying to stay alive against Talia, against Belvev, against Zach. Going to be so much harder. One of the really big things is with this continuous swapping as well, this T1 comp is so reliant on early tempo and finding early skirmishes.
Yep.
So getting to an objective first, trying to force your opponent to then play into you, and then take them down with your spirit.
Oh, this is beautiful from Zeus. Gets the all out, but broken blade with the left bounce can just heal up from that volatile matter. Elastic slingshot out. It's an ultimate for an ultimate. Zeus popped the ghost as well. Mickey looking for Guma, no flash. Chain of corruption into the zap. He's dead, says Chronicler, and G2 agrees.
T1 is being read like a book. Guma having an incredible series up until this point, but now getting punished left and right by this Poppy that, again, we saw coming like 2 picks in.
I mean, I'm agreeing with you, Chronicler. The Poppy felt like the obvious choice. And Mickey, he's having a stellar game on it once again. The pillar that is Gumayushi is crumbling under the pressure of Mickey's Poppy. And they're going to look to take another shot at the pillar.
Steadfast presence knocked into the wall, and down goes Carrier.
A killing spree for Hans Summer. 1.8k the gold leads.
Yike needs to be careful though, because Faker and Ono on the collapse. Broken blade in the top lane. Spirit rush forward, Faker looking for the charm. Yike tries to dodge away, but he doesn't have another dash. There's the charm. Ona gets his second.
This is the saving grace for T1, Faker and Ona. This mid-jungle duo, you mentioned it earlier, Chronicler. If they can keep finding these skirmishes, there is an angle back into this game.
That said, they're still going to have to find a way to reliably get on top of Hans, which is just hard to imagine, even with how good T1's team fighting can be. The last game, we're in control very early on, 2-level lead here.
They can get one of these. He gets the mites for his team. Not huge, he almost got one, but can't quite do it. T1 will secure 3 apiece.
Wait, bot lane again, look. They've just spotted Carrier on the grubs, which means that Gumayushi gonna be denied even more farm. This is the first time in a long time I've seen Gumayushi at this kind of deficit.
He's been the carry for this team so often through this split. Probably the best performing player, maybe alongside Faker, depending on who you ask, through 2024. But here he is 3 levels down on Caps as Mickey goes on to Faker. Hammer shot coming out. The chase continues with Mega Death Rocket. Not quite enough to kill off Faker, but that's the flash burn from the T1 mid laner.
Still no flash on the Ahri. Going to take away a lot of the offensive capabilities, make it harder to make plays under the Talia as well. There's a possible bot lane dive, might be imminent here. Faker does get his back off though, and teleport's available, so I want to, maybe G2 should exercise some caution.
Not just a Weaver's Wall into Guma dying here. Cap stepping forward, Weaver's Wall not used. Seismic shove enough. Fate's call will pull out Gumayushi. Mickey's running up towards the rest of T1. A kill over to T1, good reactions.
G2 getting a little predictable there.
Faker going in with the spear rush.
Nice
Charm,
charm.
Hans Summer cleanses it. Ona looking for the Sonic Wave. Hans Summer does have the flash. We're away from the Tempest Cripple, Dragon's Rage. Sonic Wave, Chaos flashes away as well. As Ona's taken down to half HP. And T1 are looking for more. They can see blood in the water. Sonic Wave just wide from Ona.
Faker and Ona make their presence known. Chronicler called out the TP, and it felt like the G2 just overcommitted to the play. Caps gets a nice knockback onto Gumayushi, but it wasn't quite enough, thanks to the ultimate from Carrier bringing him to safety. I think Mickey's game plan was to just try and lure T1 away from the remaining G2 members so that they could escape, but T1 saying very loud, very clearly, we're not out of this game just yet.
Biggest win there, I think, for T1 is the double summoners that were taken from Hans Sama. No flash, no cleanse.
That's very true.
On this Jinx, But at the same time, like looking at the setup, right now is not really where you need your Jinx to be the main character. Like yes, Hansama is fed, but the base damage of Poppy is still really, really high. You have a Bel'Veth who, while behind the Lee, still with the Kraken Slayer is going to be able to do a whole lot, and we've already seen how much damage Broken Blade can do on this Zac as well.
And this is where Zac's just base numbers are so powerful.
Yep.
Obviously, he scales up with his health, with his opponent's health, but early doors, you just have so much raw power in your kit. It's a 2,000 gold lead right now for G2.
Worth noting that Cap's suddenly back in the game, by the way. He was down like 20 CS, a full level. Now they're dead even. Not quite sure how he's been able to pull that one off, but even after all the early pressure, he's been able to find impact once again, keeping up with Faker wherever he can, playing safe in the mid lane as Yike hovers around the top side of the map.
And Yike would really like to take this Rift Herald, get your true form early on. Gives you so much more power on the Bel'Veth. Mickey, oh, flash away by Gumayushi.
I mean, he gets
That's
what he
all
wants.
Mickey really wanted, as you say. Bel'Veth, though, still on the Rift Herald. Stretching strike across, and Guma has no flash, but he dodges away from the Elastic Slingshot, and now the TP's invested by Zeus as he wants to join the party. Weaver's Wall will separate T1 a little bit.
T1 know as well, he can't give up the Rift Herald to a Bel'Veth, and this composition already is so reliant on getting early leads. If G2 get the Herald, one big punish tool is taken away as Caps.
Ona going in, safeguards forward, dodges the seismic shove, misses the Sonic Wave, and Caps just dances away from everything in mid lane. Tower going down in the top lane. Rift Herald started, I think, by Mickey as well as G2 know the Ona's path down towards that bottom side.
Incredible awareness from Caps. He was so suspicious after seeing Ona in the river. Remember that Caps earlier used the ultimate to lock off Gumayushi and Keria from escape, but once his TP came through, he also gained information on Ona in the river, and he was afraid of a potential dive. They avoid it, they secure the Herald, and while conceding the Dragon, they continue to funnel more gold into Hansama.
One of the biggest pieces of criticism that was there for T1, particularly in, say, 2022, was the way that their draft would very often go towards what they like without taking really into account what their opponents were doing. And I feel like we're seeing some hints of that here as well. To add insult to injury, right now, the 2 Drake lead ends up being a Chemtech Soul, which definitely going to be the least amount of value that you could have as Mickey.
Baker has no flash. I mean, this would be so greedy for Mickey to go for this play.
Hans can't give it away, though.
Looking for vision. Mickey steps forward. The auto's going to chase him. Look at the buckler go. It's zooming. Bonk!
You went for Konk, not Bonk?
I went bonk. I said bonk.
Oh, I thought you said Kong.
It's because I went.
I'm glad we were syncing up. Only took us 5 games.
Clear one in the bot lane, though,
Gonna
for
secure
G2.
another tower.
So synced
Herald.
that we say exactly the same thing at the
That's
same
you
time.
two. That's you two, okay? That's not on me.
Oh man, I'm so happy right now. This series has completely delivered, and I'm not going to count T1 out just yet. Faker and Ona, I've seen this duo achieve incredible things before, and I think that they can do it in this game. Hans is in a great spot, but his flash is still on cooldown.
Faker coming across here into the steadfast presence. The stun doesn't quite land as Yike dashes forward, dashes back. The true form allowing him to dodge over those walls. Ona looking for Caps. Caps gonna base check, safeguard, knock back, Sonic Wave, sizing shove, dodged. Caps trying to get back to Hansama, and he'll do it. Yike! The body block from him. Caps eye dashes away, but the Foxfire chases him. Ona looking for more as Yike tries to escape. Chain of corruption on Hansama. He cleanses away from it. Once again, it's Caps getting caught. That gives T1 a little bit of an in back into the match.
Caps holding on to his flash throughout that entire exchange. Likely because T1 can't really convert this into anything. It is a kill, and it's a valuable thing to grab, especially giving it over to Faker. But it doesn't result in an objective gained. Mickey Hans still hover around mid. Faker going to be sent to bot lane. Caps has the TP available. Yikes, still so squishy though. Gumayushi kind of having a field day when he's able to land these arrows.
One of the big things, though, that T1 are going to have to find a way to deal with is once Broken Blade starts joining fights, because no one on the team actually is good at taking down tanks.
It's a good point.
Particularly not when you have 2 lethality carries and an Ahri.
Yeah, Malignant's Lichbane Ahri as well.
Exactly. So not going to get any help with when it comes to killing Broken Blade from that. You see here, Caps just walking into unwarded territory, Owner catching him off guard, and then here, so close to making it out alive.
I'm surprised he doesn't just flash over the wall. I think he could have got out, but
yeah.
In any case, he loses his life. Medic called it, the W from Ahri, securing the kill in the end. 4-4 now, the kill score, 2K the goal difference.
And such an important series for these two teams. We've mentioned it a couple of times, but it was Oh, last time G2 were able to take a best of 5 against T1.
In 2020, they couldn't even get a game off them.
Yep. It was a long, hard road back for G2 towards the heights of 2019. I'm not going to say that's anywhere near where they are, but this victory is a step on the road for them. For T1, international best of 5s are their kryptonite.
It's the game 5, right?
Yeah.
Like, yes, against KT they were able to win, but KT has got a bunch of stuff going on themselves.
There's other history
as I'm sure you guys know, knowing lore. But particularly, you know, the game against RNG, the game 5, the game against DRX, that's the one that everyone is going to immediately think of when they were so close to ending, still not able to make it through. And then very recently, we had the 5th game against Gen G, again denying them. Right now, mid lane turret is imminent to fall with this Herald dropping
I mean,
mid.
even last year, JDG in the upper bracket, didn't they also lose the game 5,
Yep.
knocking them down into
They
the
did.
lowers? The pressure is on. Broken Blade has joined the fight. Dragon, 54 seconds.
Oh, yeah, he's going to ride this one away. Dashes across. Owner knocked into the wall. Wow! The shot. The R6 shot charged away, but the Higgs to TP in by Caps. T1 trying to retreat because already they have lost. Owner stretching, strike into the all-out. Broken Blade pulled across the wall. Here the last 6 shot out with the spear rush. Faker, he finds Summer, and every time you count him out, Faker is there to find the fight. TP behind now by Faker. Mickey and Yike trying to run away. Another charm onto Caps. Faker no spirit rush, no flash, but Caps has no HP left.
Faker is him, and he continues to prove why. An incredible pick onto Han Summer, converts into a TP flank, and they're not done just yet.
Oh, big thing here, though, is that right now they're not able to allow them to go for Baron. I think they will end up dying, but denying the Baron from T1 is still big.
Broken Blade survived for a very long time here. Goes back into the cell division. Faker and Carrier start to retreat. Zeus here to try and back up. But Broken Blade back to half HP. Super Mega Death Rocket up in 5 seconds.
Oh,
if
Sword
Han Summer
point.
can find a snipe onto
Rocket.
Faker. Not quite able to do it. Faker and Carrier do their due diligence and back away in a safe spot.
You just can't underestimate this man. In what looked like a one-sided fight for G2, they were going to get themselves the Dragon, start to snowball this game. This is where it starts. Ona gets locked up by Mickey. A great initiation as the 3-person knockup into the follow-up from Broken Blade. But just keep your eyes on Faker in this play. Nice ulti from Zeus to drag away the front line. And then Faker, out of nowhere, with the control ward, finds that charm and flashes away. Beautiful, just beautiful from Faker.
The man was having one of the worst series I've seen from him in recent years. And that pick, in of itself, not going to be enough. Still a gold lead for G2. But it's showcasing the backline threat that T1 have. If it gets messy, if it gets scrappy, I think big there as well is that while the initial knockup from Mickey, I think, found 3 people, the follow-up from Broken Blade only hit onto Owner, so they were able to take him down, but the backline was able to make their way back, and it forced G2 to further extend, or rather, they opted into further extending.
That was a great play from Faker. The question is, can he keep finding those plays?
Not
because
enough.
we saw how difficult these fights are going to be with the engage from G2. And that circumstance was a bit of an overextension with which Faker was incredible at punishing. But can they do it again? Because it's going to be relying on Ona and Faker to keep finding these plays. Level 14 for the Ahri. The Medjais could very well come soon. He's got 6 stacks on his ring so far. And this game is delivering.
Gumayushi has the edge of night. Chain of Corruption already used. Weaver's wall in by Caps. Guma flashes. Yike with the knock-up seismic shot. Bates call out. TP in now by T1 as they look to take the fight. Zeus locked up for a moment and Yike is deleted. Ona found the flag, but now he'll fall. Zeus on the backline onto Han Summer. Flash away. Mickey's trying to body block, but Zeus goes all out. Just this once. Faker dives into the backline. Caps next up for Zeus. And Faker's on a rampage. Caps just can't get through Zeus. He is not fed enough. And the flash away from Caps buys him a second, but that's all it's going to be. You can't buy class, and Faker's here to fight.
And of all people, the person criticized most in Game 5 was Zeus, but his Cassante there drew so much attention, created so much space, and now T1 on a gold lead, but again, crucially, G2 pulled them away from the Baron, so the game stays even, and I know we're 23 minutes in, but I hope this one lasts much, much longer.
The momentum has just completely shifted. They thought they'd caught Guma out. Caps even walls him off to force the flash, but this TP was so crucial. Carrier brings back his AD carry. G2 is now funneled into this choke point. A great kick from Ona results in an exchange of junglers, but Zeus finds his target. He locks down the AD carry, forces the flash out from Hans Sama, gets the knockup, brings him back in range, and then Faker with his mobility finds access onto the backline. A great team fight from T1 once again.
And the Fate's call. That was really what I think the one thing that G2 didn't calculate. Thought that they had the immobile AD carry. Wasn't enough of Zeus. Is he going to be in trouble?
I don't think so.
Like
I think Mickey's just being a nuisance more than anything else.
He is also Cassante, so I always overestimate how much damage that champion takes.
Hans Sama decelerated in this game. Only Infinity Edge Crack can still complete on him. He is building up towards his next item, but Faker has 3. Banshees, Lichbane, and the Malignance. Zeus here, knocked back with the Seismic Shot, but you just see how little damage they do. Caps only has 2 items. Leandri's Seraph's not going to work his way through.
I mean, this champion is just so strong. Level 14, he's about to hit level 15. No penetration items yet on the side of G2, which means that they are barely going to tickle him. Ari being sent off to a side lane. Level 16 going to be secured for Faker in a moment. The Dragon is spawning soon. He's just a little bit off it. But here comes the TP back to mid. He knows the collapse is happening.
Faker will be fine. We talked a lot about how are T1 going to kill Broken Blade on this Zac. The flip side is also true. If Hans dies...
Mickey looked up, and Mickey is down. Broken Blade's going to Elastic Slingshot out, but immediately pings to Baron. T1 know exactly what they want out of this situation. Mickey up in 25 seconds, but T1, it looks like, are just going to get this Baron uncontested. G2 playing through mid. Can they get there in time?
Faker controlling the vision. They don't know where he is. They have to face check into him. There's the charm.
Yike, Smite to get off the Banshee's Veil. Spirit Rush away by Faker. Baron down to 10,000. Super Mega Death Rocket from G2. Mickey on his way. Ono on the flank. Faker still has 2 Spirit Rush charges as T1 continue to chip away at the Baron. It's down to 6,000. Spirit Rush forward. Charm. Zeus on that front line. Yike having to dash away. Broken Blade locked up and Tofu's back. Zeus down to half HP. Faker no Spirit Rush left. The Baron's still low as Ona's looking to smite it. He'll get it. But will Zeus fallen when the resets happen for G2? Onto the backline goes Mickey. Carrier's almost taking him out. Carrier almost falls himself. Ona dives in. Hansama just needs 1 to really open up. Ona goes down. G2 have lost 2 already though, and Zeus can dash back in. Hansama, only the cleanse, no flash. Can G2 do it from here? Cell division in by Broken Blade. The Baron already secured by T1, but G2 do not want them to get out without a fight. Weavers roll forward. Faker low on mana. Chain of Corruption, Edge of Night popped. Gumayushi almost falling, but is able to dodge away from the seismic shove. And T1 are on the wrong side of the map right now. Any TPs up, no one up for 30 seconds. Elastic Slingshot forward, and Carrier will pull him out with a Fate's Call, but Carrier's down now. Guma next up for Broken Blade, who flashes away from the piercing arrow, and Guma goes down. Faker, no mana left on him. The TP behind as G2 begins to collapse. Faker, how the hell do you get out of this one? I don't think you do. Get some mana, he escapes the honey fruit, but T1 gets Faker out alive.
And the man just walks it off, but G2 still take out all the Baron buffs.
Wait, we're not over yet, because remember that the Dragon is still up. Caps commits the TP. Zeus is back in the fight. Yike is back out on the map, and the Dragon is still alive. This is sole point for T1.
Oh no flash, but does have a smite. The Sonic Wave across the wall. G2 secured the Scuttle Crab. Faker on his way. Has a flash of his own. Flash Charm, a possibility. Broken Blade takes the Blast Cone. Zeus trying to beat that front line for Ona. Faker flanking. G2 unaware, but the Dragon secured by G2 now. Will they go for more? They've been greedy a couple of times this game. Instead, now they start to back away. Faker lying in wait. Box by, no charm. Broken Blade escapes.
That's going to be the bounty picked up for G2 as well, off of the back of that Baron, even though it's almost a 1k negative Rebel Baron power play. And the key thing here this time around, yes, Zeus buys a lot of time. Yes, T1 gets the Baron, but Hans Sama isn't threatened this time around.
But just watch Ona. I feel like T1 is out at this point. An amazing ultimate here from Zeus to get away to safety.
He goes over the rocks.
But look at Ona here. He just goes back in. He stuns himself. He gives G2 the ability to re-engage. And once those resets start to pop off, that is where G2 come alive in the fight. We have to get back to live, though.
Yeah,
We got to get back to live.
We saw this. They chased them for a while, guys. T1 pushing in, but that Baron obviously going to expire relatively soon. They lost 1,000 gold out of it. Good. It's a good chase by G2. Good job, Broken Blade. This is a nice flash. Well done. Faker tries to re-engage, but he just can't kill off Caps. And then obviously he takes the honey fruit to escape.
Doesn't have the mana. By the end of it, though, this game is still basically exactly where we began at the start of the
Look
Baron
at the
play.
vision bot lane and TP available for Faker. About to hit level 17. Hans needs to be extremely careful.
Oh, the flanking angle. You're right, Vedi.
I mean, I'm just keeping my eyes on bot lane. The pings have happened.
Yeah. This is
Faker
TP.
knows.
Zeus no TP. Hans Summer does have flash cleanse. He has Mickey to back him up as well. Broken Blade elastic slingshots away, and you feel like every moment on the edge of the abyss, on a precipice, a knife's edge for this game.
Take a look. Attempted play there from T1.
Has flash, stretching strike, face call. Big
Tense
ultimate out.
moment, but he's brought away to safety. Dragon and Baron, 2.5, 3 minutes away.
What a series!
An incredibly tense
Holy
game.
moly!
I mean, I will say, the way these fights have been playing out, I'm starting to favor the way T1 are executing them. Yes, on paper, you'd think the front to back should be in G2's favor, but still no armor penetration on the side of Hans Summer. He's barely going to be able to get through this level 16 behemoth that is Zeus. The poke is still very relevant from Gumayushi, who, even after all his early struggles, actually has the XP advantage over Hans. And honestly, Yike is doing nothing in these fights. This Belveth has so little impact compared to what Owner is capable of doing. It's ultimately going to come down to execution. Flashes are plenty on the side of T1. Same can be said for G2. Baron 2 minutes away as T1 set vision control up around the top side of the map.
I think the important thing is when Hans Summer gets Lord Doms. If he gets it before the next fight, I think it entirely changes the landscape of the fight.
Going
He's now
Zeal.
got a Zeal, though. No Lord Doms for Hans Summer. I guess the only armor really sitting on Zeus, but I feel you want to be able to make your way through that tank.
Duma clearing the wave. Edge of Night giving him so much safety. You'd see as well, as soon as Keria gets his ult up again, he's much more willing to step forward. Really respecting the impact of this Zac. And that is one thing that I do think we're gonna now actually see is that Broken Blade is free one and free, has his Jack Show's Spirit Visage and his Sunfire as well. Faker did actually upgrade his Magi's, but he's also not built, which I don't think he should build any form of magic penetration. I think he should be looking to kill the #1 target, which is Hans.
Regardless of the outcome of this series, I'm just so grateful that both of these teams have showed both the highs and lows of what they are capable of. An incredible best of 5. 32 minutes in, we're getting closer to the end. A single fight could determine the outcome of the whole game.
And do you remember 4 days ago when everyone was saying, oh, it's just 3-0s until the upper bracket?
That's what they said.
Holy moly.
I think we've never been happy to be wrong. You know, everyone wants to
So
see
happy
this.
to be wrong.
Everyone wants to see the competitive series. Yesterday, we were treated.
I mean,
And this one feels like dessert.
LEC fans are on the precipice of feeling that hope once again.
I mean, of the biggest victory for the LEC since 2019, I think.
Yeah. But here we go. Baron returns to the Rift right now. G2 have mid control. The dance back and forth. Zeus is not losing any HP. Faker connects the charm. Really nice damage onto Yike. He's going to be forced to back off.
Drake and Baron alive in 20 seconds. Baron already up, of course. Yike goes across, gets some health. Mickey takes a bit of a chunk from Zeus, who is on that front line. Edge of Night on Gumayushi, giving him a bit of protection. Banshee's Veil on Faker too. They don't know that Faker's there. Chain of Corruption just short. T1 trying to wrestle control of the mid lane to get into this river. No vision there for G2. Sonic Wave on Broken Blade spots him out. Caps trying to get the mid lane control once again. Owner going in, pulled back with a stretching strike, but Broken Blade more of a nuisance than anything. Caps down to half HP. Yike dashing forward. Faker doing the same. Faker goes in with the Spirit Monster Charm going short. As Yike lands the knockup, he gets a stretching strike back, and Faker's locked against the wall. And Faker is down, buried beneath the earth. Can G2 find more. Hansama stepping forward, but look how low Yike is. T1 can still turn this fight back on its head. Zeus no flash, obviously he's running the ghost, but he does have Q3 right now as it landed onto Caps. Zeus going in, knocked back. Mickey dashes into the wall as Ona's locked up. Hansama dodging away from the Sonic Wave, and can he really open up? Not quite. Broken Blade's going to go into the cell division, the seismic shot just short. Broken Blade likely to fall here. Yike was trying to heal himself back up, but Broken Blade goes down. Another Q from Zeus. He finds his mark, and T1 march down the mid lane.
You might be able to take out Faker, but the real raid boss is Zeus. This man just will not fall. They don't have the damage to kill him. And as long as he stands strong, T1's team fighting is still alive.
And that's the engage gone. No one on G2 can come close. As T1, Faker is about up. Yeah, they'll get a Camtech Drake, but that's not what you're going to be looking towards. Carrier, he's harassing Faker is there.
Faker goes in, there's the charm, cleansed away by Hansama. The charm actually came out second. Even I was deceived as Hansama was. Faker showing exactly why he is the GOAT.
The Baron is secured. Caps.
He has Banshees.
He has the Banshees.
Baron is taken by T1.
With Hansama gone, that's 40 seconds. T1 may... Okay, maybe an end is a little ambitious. The wave clear is still there from Caps.
Only one minion here, the next wave on its way, about 5 seconds away. Carrier dashing forward. Gumiyushi has that lethality, but Mana Moon alongside it. Weaver's Wall will stop the minion wave. 20 seconds on Hansama. T1 can still push in. The minions, they're having a little trip going to see the pandas, but they'll make their way out of the jungle and make their march down the mid lane. Hansama still 10 seconds away. T1 maybe just go for the inhibitor, but maybe even more. Can sense blood in the water, can close out the series. Yike was going for the flank, but can't find it. T1 back away before taking the inhib.
I don't know if G2 have enough damage to get through Zeus in these extended fights. It is just a battle of the front lines, but it's Broken Blade who's falling first. Faker now with the death cap.
Sold his Medjai's for it.
He's so strong. And yes, in the previous fight, he fell short. Caps took a lot of damage to start things off. Great poke from the bot lane of T1. Faker fully commits onto Yike, misses the charm, gets knocked up. Flash in from Broken Blade. Follow-up flash from Mickey. They get the kill. At this point, you're thinking this is a great position for G2 to be in, but they've taken so much damage already. And now in the extended fight, Zeus is just a raid boss that will not move. Caps gets knocked back. The damage from Gumiyushi and Carrier is still good. You think that the backline dive from G2 is enough, but Zeus is just zoning everyone away.
It's also just, I feel like G2 not on the same page there, right? Have the team, like, yes, Caps is zoned away, but I don't think that's the case for Hans. He's full health. Has the summoners available, you gotta step up there if the rest of your team is making a play for the backline, but it's not the case. Rebel Baron powerplay now almost free K for T1, but they still don't have the inhib, and that's crucial. But if their backline can stay safe, I don't know if G2 can make it, especially because, again, there's no LDR.
Yeah. G2 are going to try and collapse on Zeus, who was pushing him mid. Seismic shove going out, but the all-out to dodge the CC from Zeus. His Cassante in these last 2 games has been a wonderful sight to see. T1 now use that pressure, push in the bot lane. They don't need the inhibs yet. The Weaver's Wall coming out. Carrier on the wrong side of it, but he's got the flash. Chain of Corruption going wide as T1 look to make their final advance into the base of G2. Zeus keeping Broken Blade at bay. Yike looking for an engage. Super Mega Death Rocket hits onto Gumiyushi, who does have flash. Carrier, remember, has just burned his. Faker no flash either, but he's got that Banshee's Veil. He's got that veil of safety that G2 have been unable to penetrate. Now the inhibitor in the mid lane, T1's target. And G2 just can't get in. Zeus dashes forward, but that's double inhib to T1.
Oh, and double inhib. That's so hard to come back from because this is going to chain into what probably will be a Camtech Soul. 41 is Mickey!
Mickey charmed up! Mickey put in the dirt, 6 feet under. Maybe short to be followed by G2. The seismic shove on Ona, but the Chain of Corruption lands onto Caps, and a stopwatch can only buy you a second to stop and watch your team be ruined by T1. This far and no further. This close and no closer. For G2, this was the day they almost beat T1. For T1, it's just another Friday.
Stunned, Benny! I'm stunned!
Just like that, a game state that looked so winning for G2 off the back of that man, Faker. So many miracle plays this game. An incredible performance from him. Zeus, the man in the top lane to help back him up with that Cassante. T1 will not falter. They will not fall into the losers bracket. G2 made them sweat for it. But today, T1 are the victors.
This series surely going to go down in history because the expectations, at least from the LCK perspective, a 3-0, a 3-1 if you were generous, if G2 had a good angle, you know, some creative drafts, but that wasn't what today's series was about. Up until the very end, it felt like either team could take it, but in the end, execution trumps all. I cannot believe that into Poppy, into Talia, T1 were able to pull that off.
Just what a series. What a performance by T1 as well. Breaking their loss streak in international best-of-5 game 5s, overcoming that curse for G2. The first victory against T1 since 2020. I think if it was an elimination game, I wouldn't be saying this, but I had a lot of fun in this series.
God.
And we're going to hand it over to the analyst desk, but stick around for the Verizon post-game interview with Mickey X in just a few minutes. Thank you so much for joining us. Faker will be shortly after. Holy moly.
Holy moly, indeed. We'll take over. I'm sure that took a lot of energy. What a series. And just to clarify, perhaps we'll hear from Mickey X first because the LCK won, so they get to interview their player of choice first. So then we'll get to our pick later. If you were wondering, but oh my God, what is it? My heart is completely shattered, but it's almost glued back together by the fact that I got to watch this best of 5 here in Chengdu. Wow.
And the fact, as Menik alluded to, it's not an elimination game, right? So you still get another chance as G2, but what a series. What a performance from T1 as well to go down to the series in game 5 and bring it back like that. Even going down at the start of this game.
Yes.
And then Faker's Ari bringing it all together.
I know we were talking about during the draft, just essentially hitting on, these are iconic picks for T1. All of them across the board, but compositionally really hard to deal with what G2 has. But man, they just turned it on. Faker was him today.
He was doing the stretches after. I saw a smile. I don't know if you guys caught it, but I would be happy with that because it's also so great, I guess, from T1's perspective because you're in the first round of the bracket stage. You're getting pushed.
Yes.
You're getting pushed into a match point for the enemy. You're getting your game back in game 4. You get to that point where you've lost those games 5s a couple of times too many when it comes to these situations. And you can just navigate everything that G2 throws at you.
And it was 2 members on this team that really turned it up because we talked about how Faker was really falling behind throughout the beginning points of this series, and we also talked about how Broken Blade had the best of Zeus. But Zeus really had an incredible Cassante game, 2 games in a row, where he was, I think, the leader of this team.
Yeah, and I mean, after the first couple of games where it wasn't really going his way, and we were looking at the draft, and I was thinking, I don't think G2 thought Cassante was the problem in that last game because everything else was. And then you let it through. And it's not that it's, even if